Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of True Offseason. We are here on the True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment channel to talk to you guys about everything that went down just about a week ago when the NFL draft took place. And a lot of things happened, a lot of interesting things happened, including some interesting things happening to that guy right there, front and center, Shador Sanders. We're going to be talking about all of that, and of course, when I say we, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about Chase Oliver. Sir, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm good, man. You know, the false optimism after the draft. You drafted everyone correctly. You're super happy. You're doing your dynasty drafts. You got the guy that you wanted. You feel good. You're like, oh, these rookies are going to explode. And then by week 2 or 3, when they don't do shit, we call them a bust. We say, oh, they drafted the wrong guy.
Yeah,
When it's just
listen,
week
man.
2 or 3 in
All
the
I
NFL.
know is that it's a two-headed race for offensive rookie of the year. It's either Omarion Hampton
Oh,
or RJ Harvey. I don't want to hear anything about Ashton Janty, right?
oh, Ashton Genty. He's like the third best running back in the AFC West right now. What are we talking?
You
Like,
hate to see
people
it. You
looking
hate
for
to
him.
see it. But guys, thank you all for tuning in. As always, remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and yeah, let's get into it. So, like I said, top of the show, the NFL draft took place. It was 1 week ago today, and we were there, or no, we were there, but virtually we all were there, watching along in Green Bay as as the commissioner opened up the draft, and Clay Matthews goes ahead and says he's got a message from Donald Trump, and it's that the Bears still suck, which personally I thought was hilarious. I didn't think he needed necessarily the Trump reference, but like, I mean, I get it. Um, and then actually, funnily enough, because of what happened with Shador, Trump did tweet out like some shit about, why are all these teams passing on Shador and all this kind of stuff. I was like, maybe he did tell Clay Matthews to tell the Bears that they still suck. You never know. But like, why is he talking about Shador Sanders? He's got more important things to do, like figuring out his terrible tariff plan.
Oh yeah.
But let's what we wanted to do was we wanted to go kind of a holistic approach, if you will, and go division by division and talk about a few people that stood out to us, maybe not necessarily like a few misses, but like just what our takeaway is from how the teams view their own teams, right? Because the NFL draft is the opportunity to kind of restock or replenish or to find the future when it comes to who's on your team. And so we got a really good idea, especially when we get to like say the Falcons draft, how that team views its own players, and what they are looking for the future, or how they may want to change the identity a little bit of their team, because some of these teams have new head coaches, new offensive coordinators, new defensive coordinators. There's been a lot of change in the league, and this is our first, maybe there's a little bit of movement or a little bit of that fog being lifted during free agency, but there's still only so many players available during free agency, whereas here you can see people in real time have to make value calls on who they want, who they don't want, and also what the value is assigned to those people, which sucks from a personal standpoint, like the human being standpoint. But hey, if a team goes, we don't like anybody else that's here at this spot, it's more value to us to trade out of the pick or trade down. That's just the nature of the game. This ultimately is a competitive sport, a competitive business. So with that in mind, let's get started and talk. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, we'll just briefly, because it's a topic that's been kind of beaten to death. But the Shador Sanders falling to the fifth round, where the Browns finally scoop him up, pick 144. You and I were there on the True Hill Heat stream watch along for the draft. You came in around the Chargers pick, but we were seeing kind of in real time, what the value is that is attached to Shador Sanders, and there's a lot of talent. There's incredible amounts of talent, but at the same time, there is other things that come with it. And as like I said, it's been beaten to death. But once you are viewing a player at a talent level, and if the tape doesn't necessarily jump off to say this person absolutely must be a first round draft pick no matter what, Then you start adding in all the other stuff, like, say, the emotional intelligence of a player or the actual situational awareness of a player to not mess up interviews and not do things like that. Or, as we found out in different reports, it may have been Shador intentionally trying to piss some teams off so that he wouldn't be drafted by those teams. Either way, it all affected where he ended up being drafted, right, in the 5th round. And it sucks for him from a risk reward standpoint, right? Like, you risked a lot, but at the same time, it is harder for me to have as much empathy for the person when it's like, you did this to yourself. But Chase, what are your thoughts on the fall, the downward fall of Shador? And after you do that, we'll start with the AFC North.
Yeah, it was really not too shocking for me because I've had people like actually reach out to me that like I know people from NFL teams and I built great relationships and stuff, but I've heard like a lot of stuff that he just didn't interview well and that it would cost him possibly the first round. And from a talent perspective, a lot of teams did view him as a second to third round quarterback. Now, does that mean he doesn't get drafted in the first round? No, because I've heard many times that there was a quarterback viewed as a second or third round pick get drafted into the first round. So it's not really like a talent thing. It's like what you said. It's an emotional thing too. The emotional intelligence of a Shador Sanders is not there compared to what teams that interviewed Jackson Dart saw from Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart obviously showed enough emotional intelligence to become a first round pick. I honestly was not shocked that Jackson Dart was going to be selected in the first round because I figured with his intangibles and his traits, he's a first round talent. Like teams are going to take a risk on him because if they can fix whatever his throwing issues are, he can end up being a good player. He's a good it's like a Josh Allen. It's like in a sense where it's like, let's just give him some time, maybe give him some reps this season, and then we'll see what's next with this guy. Like Daniel Jones was the same thing, where it was like a prospect. There's two sides of the spectrum. You can either be like Josh Allen, or you can be like Daniel Jones, who's a pretty good backup in the NFL. But yeah, like Shador, I thought for sure he would be in the third round at least. I thought teams in the third round would have taken him there, but it was clear that he must have sabotaged himself so bad to the point where he got selected in the 5th round. Like no offense to guys like Jalen Milroe or Dylan Gabriel, they shouldn't be drafted over a guy like Shador Sanders, who I think with the NFL pedigree behind them, that I feel like it's like with pro wrestling, when you hear someone's like a second or third generation star, you kind of like have more hopes for that person because you're like, oh yeah, they understand the business. Same thing with Shador. Like this guy knows football. He grew up with football. Hall of Famer and Deion Sanders. Now, I'm not saying every Hall of Famer kid ends up becoming a great player, but you hope that he has the same type of intangibles as an athlete like his father has. So I thought for sure a third round pick, but nah, dude,
it's wild because to your point, there are players that are considered second or third round talent, but will move up simply because of team need. And we saw that, like when we get to the Saints, we saw that happen in real time. So it is an interesting situation, one that because of just the sheer number of quarterbacks on the roster now for the Browns will be the offseason story, particularly once training camp hits. I don't know if I think they changed the rules for who is eligible for Hard Knocks. But if the Browns are eligible, I think it's a smash. Like you just go, Browns, you're signed up. You don't even get to say there's no debate or discussion.
Didn't they already announce that the Lions were Hard Knocks again?
I don't
thought it was
think
the Lions. Yeah, because I thought it was the Lions again because like Jared Goff is now going to be like the most seen quarterback on Hard Knocks history after this.
No. I don't think it's been announced. So like Sports.
Oh no, he's on the quarterback show. He's on the new season of quarterbacks.
Okay.
Okay.
I love that because
I think it's Goff, Kirk Cousins again, and then one other quarterback.
Kirk is weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this sucks. They're not. So this is the list of actually no, real quick. This is the list of teams that are eligible to be on Hard Knocks. Let's see, like who do we think would be really great? The Cardinals, the Falcons, the Ravens, the Bills, the Panthers, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Packers, the Texans, the Colts, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Giants, Eagles, Steelers, Niners, Seahawks, Titans, Commanders. So it's like half the league that's eligible. As long as they are not in the soon to be not in the to be determined in season division. Oh, okay, all right. So that's why it's that many. Because 4 of them will get pulled. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see the Texans, the Vikings, the Commanders, and just the sheer disgustingness of how high level for the football conversations would be, the Niners. I would want to see Kyle Shanahan be doing an install of an offense, and people are just watching it like this guy just. I don't know how he has not won Super Bowls. It's just wild, random shit that keeps happening. / running into Patrick Mahomes, but that would just be fascinating to me. But is there any team from that list? And I know I rattled off a lot of them, but is there any team from that list that kind of jumps out at you as being? Because I would love the Broncos, but I'm not going to pick the Broncos. But is there any team one that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I like the 49ers as well because I just think it'd be interesting. They also have a huge story with Brock Purdy and his extension, so it'd be kind of interesting to see how they're approaching that. Kittle's always good TV, so he's going to be funny on there. San Francisco is a beautiful city, so you got a lot of cool, fun things that these players could actually do. The Falcons would just be interesting just from the standpoint that I just think they're hilarious. So I would also love to see James Pierce Jr. on camera just to see these attitude issues that I keep hearing about. Tight ends would be hilarious just to see how bad they are, and maybe we get my boy Will Levis, talking about how this is still his team and stuff. I would laugh. I think and Tennessee's also cool too, so I think it'd be fun. Cam Ward is also low key kind of funny, so I think that Cam Ward would be good to feature as the number 1 pick.
You know how I know Will Levis is terrible? The Saints would have rather drafted Tyler Show than have traded the Titans.
It's their fault. Their loss. They could have traded, got my dog, and bombs to Rashid Shaheed. That would have made my son. That would have been appointment TV. And then the last one, I would say the Cardinals, just because I think Kyler. It'd be hilarious just to see him just playing video games. and Gannon, he was funny as fuck in that in season when he was all talking about you're you guys gonna wait for the taxi or you're gonna drive the taxi yourself? And I was like, what are you talking about? This guy's just crazy. And then the GM, that awkward thing that he had with Buda Baker, it's like, you ready, man? You got this? And it was Buda Baker's like, who the fuck are you? So I think the Cardinals would just be kind of funny just from the aspect that they're kind of familiar with some of the people who probably watch the in-season Hard Knocks with them, but also too, it would just be I just think they have a funny roster. It's just kind of one of those and then they're a random team, so it's people would kind of be like, why are you choosing the Cardinals? And then you kind of get hyped up with the Cardinals stock and stuff, and it'd be cool to see Marv's personality. I don't really know much about him, I know
you didn't really get that much from the draft Giants Hard Knocks, because the conversations were pretty slim pickings there. But let's move to our division by division breakdown, and because we led off with the Shador information, and because we've got Austin in the comments saying Pittsburgh Buckeyes best in the league, let's start with that. So here you guys have the whole division and who they picked and where. And, just from an emotional standpoint, the Derek Harmon pick, my God, this guy gets to immediately get off the phone with the Steelers front office and Mike Tomlin and rush to the hospital and be able to tell his mom that he got drafted and she's been on life support for a while because of strokes and different medical things, complications that have happened because of those strokes. And then shortly after, he tells her, or he gives her the news that he was drafted in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. She passes away. That's incredibly powerful. You obviously she was holding on until that moment, and thoughts and prayers go out to the Harmon family, just because you are balancing what is a wonderful, amazing time and situation with the knowledge that Derek, whether he is, cousin, nephew, niece, whatever related to you, brother, sister, all of that stuff, is this individual has been drafted into the NFL in the first round. You are that is juxtaposed by the pain and the sorrow and the sadness of his mom passing away. So, I mean, that was an incredible moment for him and his family, and I'm glad that was. I'm glad that if that was if those were the cards that were being dealt, that the cards were dealt in such a way that that moment was able to happen. And you can only imagine the, you know, to your point about intangibles earlier with Shador and everything like that, you can only imagine the amount of love and appreciation that he will have for the Steelers as an organization for making that dream come true, because he doesn't know whether or not, because that was in the 20s when he was picked. It was possible that the Steelers don't pick him, and it's possible still that his mother passes away when she passes away on Saturday or on Friday. So it's possible he never even got the opportunity to tell her. So the fact that he did, because the Steelers drafted him where they drafted him, that's a human thing. It's going to stick with him for the rest of his life. And I would not be surprised if he is a beast, even more so than he already was or is when he was playing for Oregon, simply because of that story and because of how that affected him. But besides the Harmon pick, I really like the Caleb Johnson pick.
Oh, yeah.
He really fits that offense from the perspective of the things that Art Smith likes to do. I will say that there were, some the counterbalance of good and bad. What with Caleb Johnson was that a lot of what he was able to do was because of a great offensive line at Iowa.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh has kind of like, they've had a good offensive line, but at the same time they haven't. It's always, in the past few years, it's been a very up and down road, and you could argue that has contributed a bit to what happened with Najee Harris, and then Jalen Warren looking better than Najee Harris, but it is what it is. So the question is going to be, can this offense now with Caleb Johnson, the fresh legs, kind of make that work? And one thing that I thought was really interesting for the Steelers is the Will Howard pickup, mainly because there is a huge thing going on right now connecting the Steelers to Aaron Rodgers. Whether or not that happens, they need a quarterback. Like they can't go into not even from the perspective of 2025, but talking about from 2026 and onwards, they cannot go into the future with Mason Rudolph. And I forget who is the backup to Mason Rudolph right now. But that just goes to show that it's not somebody that quarterback room is not prepared at this moment to lead an NFL offense throughout the course of a 17-game season, and potentially, because the Steelers' defense is so good, into the playoffs, because they normally luck themselves into at least one playoff game. So the question there is going to be, who is going to be that future, whether it's Rodgers for 2025 and 26, and then maybe it's Howard taking over the reins, or it's Howard taking over the reins sometime in 2025. They need to figure out that quarterback situation. So I thought that was a great pick for them. The Bengals, defense and offensive line. They did nothing but try to address the defense and the offensive line. And then eventually they were like, oh, yeah, we probably should get another backup running back in case Chase Brown gets injured again, because we already had Zach Moss go down and he's also getting older. So let's just, round 6, who's available. And that's nothing against Josh Brooks in any way, shape, or form. It's just more, you see defensive end, linebacker, guard, linebacker, guard. So and this is what I was saying was, you see in real time how front offices think about their teams. And you really see that they were thinking, okay, we finally have to do something about this defense and about this offensive line. And Shamar Stewart really can be a bit of a Trey Hendrickson replacement. We'll see. I don't know exactly if Trey Hendrickson is confirmed that he will be returning. I know that
we don't know what's going on there.
yeah,
Like
they
it's
said they're going
like
to
a
let him
weird
go.
situation.
Yeah, they said they're going to let him seek a trade, but who knows what's going to happen there. And then the Ravens, the rich get richer, and it's really annoying because this is a division that can send 2 to 3 teams to the playoffs, depending on how things break. Obviously, you have your division winner, but then the Steelers and the Bengals are always in the mix, whether it's the Ravens who win the division. But with a draft like this, it looks like the Ravens are going to win the division because you add in Malachi Starks to an already good secondary, and it's just more of the same of how are you going to throw on us? And the Bengals are an offense that need to throw the ball. Chase Brown is a good running back, but he's not the kind of game clock killing running back that you really can use to ice games. So the Bengals are built around the pass, and if it's harder to pass, it's easier to get the ball back to the Ravens. And then, oh, look, the Ravens do have a game killing running back in Derrick Henry. And you see throughout the course of their draft, it's a good mix of just defense and offensive line. It's interesting that they don't take a wide receiver till the 6th round. And the only reason why I thought that was interesting is because there's very few options to throw the ball to on the Ravens.
Yeah.
It's really just Zay Flowers and either Mark Andrews. I was about to say Mark Henry, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. That's it. There's really nobody else. They tried a couple guys here and there, and it hasn't really worked. I will be intrigued to see whether or not Tyler Loop is the new death taxes and nails the field goal. We'll see. We'll see. And the Browns, you trade back, you get more draft picks with Jacksonville to let them get Travis Hunter, and you take Mason Graham. It was pretty funny the amount of people joking about the idea that you're going to see the Browns have an opportunity for their generational player, and then they trade out of it to get. And that's not a knock against Mason Graham. It's just like, I mean, is Travis Hunter that generational? And they're potentially getting the heir apparent to David Njoku, who I believe is turning 29, might be turning 28, but either 28 or 29. In Harold Fannin Jr. And then there's that quarterback situation with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. But I've talked enough. What were the things that you liked about the AFC North's draft and just your general thoughts on it and for the team going forward?
Yeah. I thought the Steelers, they addressed a lot of good needs in this draft. I don't know if it was like the best players they could have gotten in each position, but they did address needs and, address like who could fit the Steelers culture. The Bengals, I was not a fan with their 2 guard pickups. I felt they could have picked up better guards, but they picked up guys that are versatile. So that's good. That's good. Like you got, because with the Bengals, that offensive line, they just need guys that can play. They just need a lot of bodies because it seems like they either get injured or they bench people. So that's good. I do like the pickup of Taj Brooks because I think that will be like kind of like the Chase Brown replacement for everyone that loves Chase Brown. I think Taj Brooks, with the speed that he has, will take over what Chase Brown brings to the table. I think he's better at reading the line as well. So, and he didn't play with a strong offensive line at Texas Tech, so he's going to know what it's like to improvise when those running gaps are not there for him. The Shamar Stewart pick, I like it a lot. I know a lot of people knock it because in college he didn't have like the stats like everyone looked at. He didn't get sacks. He didn't get, but I just look at his game wrecking potential, and I'm just like, this guy just found a way into the backfield almost every fucking time I watched him. Like, he is just so talented, and I just think that his skill set, it will match better in the NFL than in college, where it's like, NFL, there's like certain play styles, like they're not running all these weird gimmicks like in college. In college, they'll run like weird gimmicky stuff compared to the NFL, where it's just like a lot of teams just kind of run the same base packages. So I think it will be a lot easier for him to process, and there's not going to be a lot of crazy RPOs or play actions that he has to think about before he's running into that quarterback. So I think he's going to do well, to be honest. He's one of my favorite sleepers for defensive rookie of the year, to be honest. Like I wouldn't put it past it if he has a really, really killer year. The Ravens, they just do it again. They just sit, let other teams do whatever. They get Malachi Starks. They don't care that Mike Green has these like charges against him or something, because they're like, well, he was honest about it. He at least admitted that he did something wrong, so we'll take him. And then Emory Jones in the third round, who I thought is a really good offensive tackle. That really good pickup there. A guy that can, either play guard or tackle for you, but especially with Stanley. Stanley's getting older, and we all know Stanley. It's not like Stanley's durable. Like, he's missed a lot of games sometimes for the Ravens. So getting a guy that that's like, okay, he can play left tackle if needed, that's always a plus in my opinion. And then the Browns, I don't know what they were doing, to be honest. A lot of their draft picks were just very, like, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, Mason Graham is probably their best pick, but my favorite pick from them was Judkins, because they found like their Nick Chubb replacement, and Judkins is an absolute like battering ram. So I really do like that pickup for them, especially with that offensive line, and of course Harold Fannin Jr. I like a lot, but the linebacker they chose in the second round, he just didn't play at UCLA. Like, they're just drafting him based off his athleticism. Like, they're just like, oh, this guy's a freak athlete, let's just draft him. It's like, you could have drafted a freak athlete at number 2 overall in Travis Hunter. Like, why are you drafting this guy? Graham is good. I think this is more of a Myles Garrett. Let's give Myles Garrett someone that can clog up and eat some space for him. Put him on the same side. Have it where Mason Graham takes the doubles. Maybe Myles Garrett can beat this guy one-on-one, or maybe Mason Graham gets to the quarterback. But yeah, the quarterback thing, that just made no sense. I mean, I get it, because Deshaun Watson, there's questions there, and Flacco's old, and Kenny Pickett has small hands. But like, just choosing Gabriel in the third, and then obviously a deflated draft room that did not want him, Shador Sanders in the 5th. These were just things that I just weren't really big fans of. Like, just a lot of the guys for the Browns, I just don't think, like, besides like Judkins, will help them like Graham. I think Graham will help them, but I'm talking about like make an immediate impact. Like, I don't know, like, it's just Judkins to me. That's the only guy where I say, you know what, he can make an immediate impact day one. Graham, I think it's going to take time for him to kind of get, because like Graham's used to being the dominant guy on the D line. Now he's playing with one of the best defensive players of all time, and Myles Garrett. And I'm not stuttering when I say that. He is one of the best defensive players of all time, whether he wants to be a loser or not. Look at the statistics. He's one of the best we've ever seen. Like we were spoiled with Aaron Donald. Like, guys, I'm sorry. Aaron Donald existed in our lifetime. So like certain guys kind of just get pushed to the wayside because of Aaron Donald. Myles Garrett, unfortunately, was in that vortex, but he is one of the best defensive players you'll ever see in your lifetime. You should appreciate watching him play football on Sundays. But now Mason Graham has to go from being the dude to now like, oh, like I have to help out the dude. So I think there's going to take time for adjustments there. There is such thing as chemistry on the D-line, guys. I know a lot of you guys think they just try to attack the quarterback, but you play certain roles in your position, and Mason Graham's role will be a lot different than it was at Michigan. That's for sure. But yeah, I wasn't really that big of a fan of the Browns draft, but I felt the AFC North as a whole, like, the Steelers and Ravens, I felt got better. The Bengals somewhat improved, and the Browns, they obviously they're just happy they got Jaguars first round pick next year. They must, because next year's draft class is insane, so they must be loading up. They understand where they're at.
I can understand the Browns strategy from the idea that this is not a draft for this year, it's a draft for 2027.
Yeah.
They're drafting now for people that need to develop or will develop over time. And by 2027, when they can actually start plugging in some better players, when they freed themselves from not only the salary cap hell that they're in, with the idea that this year Watson's cap hit is $36 million, and then next year it's $80 million, which granted they're going to keep doing the void years and all that kind of stuff to try to move it. But as you get out from underneath that, and you potentially, like, let's say the Jaguars have a mid-round pick, right? Let's say it improves from 5 to say 12. Well, now you could potentially trade your pick, which could still be a high pick. Like, let's say the Browns again have somewhere in the 2 to 7 range, which they're in the running for number 1 overall. But like, let's say it's somewhere in that range. You could afford to trade that pick and get more picks for either 26 or 27, and then use the Jaguars pick for the actual player that you want. And you're continuing to build momentum and build up your treasure trove, so to speak, for when you do need to be, or when you do plan to be competitive. So from that perspective, I can kind of understand it. I the people that felt as though the Browns were going to try to get a quarterback in the first round, I was like, it does not make any sense. This team
Yeah.
is not ready to compete. They have a good defense. I'm not saying they have the bad defense, and they have pieces on offense from the perspective of the Jerry Judys of the world, from the David Njokus of the world, and now with the Quinshon Judkins in round 2. But it's a salary cap issue. You cannot afford to, like, for example, the Commanders could spend in free agency, and they can afford, if they wanted to move up and potentially pay the extra salary issue, the gap between where they were going to pick and whatever pick they were going to try to trade into. They could do that because they had a large salary cap surplus. The Browns don't have that luxury. So even if they did, let's say for argument's sake, they had taken Shedeur Sanders at 5, and Shedeur Sanders comes out of the gate really well, gangbusters, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's harder to build around him because not only now do you not have the cap space to give to somebody else or help re-sign people, but because Shedeur played so well, your draft pick is now further down. So you're hurt in your own ability to add to the team. So it's an interesting strategy where we will see over the course of the next 2 years how exactly this whole thing plays out for the Browns.
Yeah, because like, to your point, like when people were like, why don't they just draft someone? That 5th-year option is very important. It's because, like, the money that's tied into Watson is just way too much, and then you want them to pay a rookie quarterback also $20 million of his overall contract, like, and then you don't even get the luxury of having that rookie quarterback money because all that money is tied to Watson, and then you're pretty much overpaying a backup. So then now you're paying a backup a bunch of money, and especially if you're not feeling like, oh, this guy's going to take over for Watson soon, it's like, no, like what they did was smart, and getting who they wanted in the later rounds, because even with Watson's contract, at least if, let's say, Shedeur or Gabriel becomes their starter, they at least are paying their starter like how the Niners got away with Purdy, where it's like, we're barely paying him and stuff. So.
And the other thing to think about also, guys, is with Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, either one, whichever one works out, right? Like in this hypothetical, either one of them works out. The problem is that neither of them have the 5th-year option. So normally in the 5th-year options scenario, you are renegotiating with the player in year 4 because you have the ability to take the 5th-year option. So 4 years from now is 2029. Right? So in the 2029 season, or during that offseason, you start the negotiations with that player. But now, because you don't have that ability, you're doing that during the 2028 offseason. And that's right around when the money's going to fall off from Watson. So you don't even get a chance to get anybody in free agency during 26, 27, and the 28 offseason, because you have to already earmark that money for the quarterback, because that quarterback's going to be able to justify and go, hey, because I saw somebody talk about like how much money could it possibly be, right, to pay this guy. Well, think about it. Trevor Lawrence, who by any stretch of the imagination has not lived up to, as of yet, the potential for what he was drafted at.
Yeah.
However, he got $275 million over 5 years, which means it's a $50 million plus on average yearly cap hit. That cap hit for a quarterback is only going to go up by the time 2028 rolls around. It's probably going to be closer to $60 million a year. Now, if you're paying Watson in 2027, if the cap hit for Watson is $80 million, that means in 28, when you do sign the contract with that quarterback, either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, you are now taking 60 of that $80 million and giving it to this person, which only leaves you 20 to potentially spend on somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the math doesn't math. And it's like, yes, teams can be very creative with salary cap and very creative with how they move things around. God only knows the Saints have some kind of deal with the devil. Same with the Rams. But there's only so many different ways that you can move that money around and change how somebody's getting a bonus and restructure this and so on and so forth and make incentives. There's just a limit to what you can do. So you have to build through the draft. You have to build through free agency.
Yeah.
You have to, if you're the Browns, you have to concentrate more on building through the draft than through free agency right now. But that takes us to a team and a division that absolutely is building through the draft. And that's where we go back to the AFC South and we take a look at this because we have two teams that picked number 1 and number 2, well, thanks to a trade. But we also have a team that completely traded out of the first round, even though they needed help. And we have a team that said basically this is kind of the put up or shut up year for their quarterback. So let's go through this. So we have the Titans, and the Titans, first overall, to the surprise of no one, they take Cam Ward. And that, I'm not as well versed on college football as you. I'm slowly getting there now, being somebody who watched more. However, watching him in Miami, he does have the ability to make some very interesting plays and be able to push the ball. And he had a very star-studded cast down there in Miami, and he's definitely getting a downgrade coming to Tennessee. But there are still enough individuals on the Tennessee roster where they have the ability to make a little bit of noise. It's not outside of the realm of possibility that if a lot of these players work well together, that they could win the division. Now, they're going to be running up against the Texans defense, so we'll see how that works out. But if you look at this draft, it's interesting because they take quarterback, they go defense then in rounds 2 and 3, and then round 4, they just go, all right, it's time to start going offense. And you have Chimera Dike, you have Gunnar Helm, you have Alec Aomanar. These are all players that are stepping into a team that has a lot of targets and nobody really to claim them. Like, really, who do the Titans have? They have Calvin Ridley, and you could argue that they have Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard when it comes to receiving threats, right? Like, those two are
They just signed Lockett too, so
yeah,
Lockett, I guess we can
they
put on
signed
that.
Lockett, but Lockett's like 33. And so
Yeah.
what is Lockett giving you at this point in time? And part of the power of Tyler Lockett was his ability to know where first Russell Wilson and then Geno Smith needed him to be, and then the ball just got there. So like that chemistry is going to take some time, but there's really a lot of targets available for these offensive skill positions, and now you're adding in 2 wide receivers and a tight end. There's a lot of potential here. And I'm not going to necessarily get into like who they picked and whether they could have picked somebody else, because like I said, I'm not as well versed on college ball yet. But what I do appreciate is that they are trying to do something. And that is something that I think is very interesting to see. And we'll see how this works out for the Titans this year. But moving to Jacksonville, this is a little bit more interesting of a draft because the Jacksonville defense wasn't that much of the problem. Like, they have a decent defense, and so it's interesting to see the number of defensive players that they went. They're taking multiple cornerbacks. One cornerback, two multiple linebackers, another safety for their secondary. But then they're also saying, okay, let's try to do a little bit of offensive line. But none of this really matters because ultimately the thing that everyone's going to focus on is that number 2 overall pick. And that's what's going to be the story or the definition of the Jacksonville Jaguars for this draft and really the future of the franchise, because you have taken so much and invested it into Travis Hunter, not just from the perspective of who Travis Hunter is and what he offers to a team and you picking him at number 2 overall, but it's what you gave up to get him. And you traded away not just picks in this draft, but also your first rounder next year. And you have to be anticipating that first rounder next year is going to be somewhere in that back half. Otherwise, why are you making this trade? If this is going to be a situation where you're picking somewhere in 8, 9, 10, 11, did it make sense to move up to get Travis Hunter? Maybe the answer is yes. Personally, to me, if Travis Hunter picks up any kind of injury, they're immediately, like, if common sense to me at least would go, okay, well, now he's not playing both positions. He's only playing one of the positions. And it's going to be wide receiver. It's not going to be quarterback. It's easier to find a cornerback than it is to find a stud wide receiver the way he plays the game. So putting this individual with Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence, this is now the offense. And when you lose someone like Evan Ingram, who absorbed a lot of targets, similar to that Titans situation, there's a lot of targets to go around. Now, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, decent receiving threats out of the backfield, but nothing that really lights the world up. Will Bashal Tutin be that? I don't know. We're going to see. But this is a situation where also you have ETN on the last year of his rookie deal. You have a couple more years of Tank Bigsby. It kind of makes sense to get somebody else to say, hey, if we need to play hardball with ETN over this contract situation, we have the ability to do it because we know we got a running back in round 4. So these are the two. The reason why I put Titans and Jacksonville at the top is because these two are very interesting drafts because of the number 1 and the number 2 overall pick. It's what I liked about it is that you see very different drafting mentalities and very different overall strategies. The Jaguars seem to be putting all the eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Saying we have the quarterback, or at least we believe we have the quarterback, and we hit on Brian Thomas Jr. All we need is this one piece. The Titans are going, we need a lot of help. We are going to try to spread throughout both offense and defense and try to help this offensive line a bit by taking the pressure off of them and seeing what we can build for the future. I think the Titans are going, we are not competitive till 2027. And the Jaguars are saying we are competitive now, or at least that's what they believe, which takes us from the Titans in Jacksonville to the division leader and the guys who kind of have had the division on lock, and that's the Texans. And you have a situation where CJ Stroud needs help. This man needs more help than I don't even know how to describe the amount of help that he needs. Not only did his offensive line basically abandon him for the back half of the 24 season. But then the Texans said, you know what? The best person on, or one of the best persons on that offensive line, we're going to trade them. And CJ Stroud's like, okay, well, that sucks. And then on top of that, he has Tank Dell go out on injury. And I remember when Tank Dell gets injured, CJ Stroud is bawling. Like he is trying to hide how much it affected him that he's losing Tank Dell. And that's from a personal standpoint, like just the level of friendship that they have. But also, I mean, there's the whole thing of, hey, now I literally only got Nico Collins to throw to. I already lost Stephon Diggs. So now coming into this season, Diggs goes to New England. It looks as though Tank Dell it doesn't look like he's not playing this season, but it potentially looks like his career is over. So you think the Texans, oh man, it's going to be offensive line. We're going to get wide receiver. And they do that. But first, they then trade out of the first round pick. And I'm like, oh man, what are they doing? But it's interesting though, because those first 3 picks, I actually really like them. Not from the perspective of who they are, because I don't know the players as well. But what I liked about it was they said, we need a wide receiver, we need offensive line. They did that with those 2 picks in the second round. And then they said, you know what would really help? If we get another wide receiver from the same exact team, because those 2 wide receivers will know how to play with each other. And they said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get these 2 guys that have good chemistry with each other. We're going to pair them up with Nico, who already has good chemistry with CJ Stroud. We put these guys in an incubator, one of those Dragon Ball Z training capsule things, and say, you guys figure this shit out. You 4 get together this offseason and figure this shit out. And that gives them a lot of different options. And so there's some interesting, other pieces in the draft that we have here. They're a little bit for that defense, because you can't not afford to spend something on your defense, despite how great it is. But the Woody Marks pick, I think, is really interesting, because this is supposed to be a really deep running back class. And you have a situation where Joe Mixon at multiple points in time was the offense, especially once Diggs went out, and then you had the injuries to Tank Dell. The offense really moved because of Joe Mixon. And I know Chase has terrible flashbacks to that playoff. But Joe Mixon's getting older, man. And you got to start working on getting the replacement. Not replacement, but just at least help to be able to say, okay, we can pull you off for a series, right? You can get that breather on the sidelines. And maybe Woody Marks is that. I don't know yet. But at the same time, I know that what they did have behind him, it's not the greatest. And so adding somebody in there with the fresh legs helps a lot. And that brings us to the Colts. And the Colts, this one is I'm looking at it because I manually typed all of these names in there. The Colts really didn't do any trades, which I thought was interesting. They just were like, we're gonna it not like a situation of whoever falls to us, but it's like we're gonna target who we have on our board, and if that person's no longer there, we have these backup selections that make sense for this round. And there's a little bit of everything sprinkled throughout here. The only thing that they didn't pick, which I thought was very interesting, was wide receiver. Now you can make an argument that Tyler Warren fits literally anything. He can catch the ball, he can throw the ball, he can run the ball, whatever. He is the ball, right? But the wide receivers in the Colts locker room, they have not always been able to. There's a reason why Big Tony, Anthony Richardson, really only throws bomb passes or doesn't really throw that much at all. And I don't know if it's a situation where Alex Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, Pittman Jr., whether they are necessarily the guys to get the job done. And maybe the Colts felt, hey, we put Tyler Warren in there, all of our problems are solved. And we'll see, because there's a strong argument over who was the better tight end. Was it Tyler Warren? Was it Colston Loveland? And the thing is that the Colts had the pick. So they were the ones that picked first, if I remember right.
Loveland went first.
So they had the one that was mocked to them throughout this entire process. So how Warren helps shift this offense, we're going to see. And Jonathan Taylor, sir, hopefully you get some offensive line help there, because you're starting to pick up a little injuries here and there. But how did you like the AFC South's draft and the players that stood out to you and the different mentalities that you see approaching building a football team?
Yeah, the tight ends, I really like what they did in the fourth round. I really like the pickups of their receiver. Gunnar Helm was actually like my favorite tight end for like the Chargers in the late round selections. Like I really wanted Gunnar Helm. Like I don't care if this guy's not athletic. He gets up and he catches the football. He's a great possession, great blocking tight end. So I felt this guy would have been perfect for like those 3rd and 2 situations. Like he's not going to burn you, but he's just such a big body. He's going to find a way to catch the football. Yeah. Love the pickup of Eleka Ayamanor from Stanford. Big kid, good speed. I think that's someone that Cam Ward is going to really like, especially if he can develop a route tree. I think he's going to do really, really well. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm really trying to understand what they were trying to think with this draft. Like, obviously, this because like the positions that they selected, like you said, the defense wasn't really the issue. I felt like they could have gotten more offensive linemen to kind of help out because their O-line was getting banged up last year. And, they traded away their best offensive lineman last year to the Vikings for like peanuts. So like, I figured like, they would just say, hey, let's try to get more offensive line, but they decided we needed more defensive help. But I don't think the defense cost you games. Hunter, it'll be interesting to see because I think they were one of the only few teams that were dedicated. And yeah, you can play both sides of the ball, Travis. Like, they're one of the only few teams that were like really committed into that. And that's another thing when people shit on the Browns, like saying, why did they choose Travis Hunter? Maybe the Browns weren't committed, and they, even though they like Travis Hunter, it's like, hey, we only want you to play one position. And Travis Hunter's like, that don't work for me. So then it's like, okay, well, it doesn't work for us either. So might as well trade down. And Jacksonville's, they got a guy, Travis Hunter, who I think is going to kill it in the league. I think he's going to be a better wide receiver than corner, but that'll be remained to see. Well, that'll always be interesting to see how he can play both sides of the ball. The Texans, though, man, like they just drafted guys that were supposed to go really high at one point in time during this draft, and they just said, you know what, we're going off pedigree. They drafted guys where I'm like, man, they drafted a lot of guys I liked and guys with good pedigree. I mean, Jalen Higgins, he was my wide receiver 3 in this draft class, like behind McMillan and behind Travis Hunter. That was my wide receiver 3 was Jalen Higgins. Just big size, solid speed. And then Jalen Noel was my wide receiver 9. So they got two of the top 10 wide receivers in this draft. Noel's more of a Tank Dell type, but a little bit taller, bigger, and can burn down the field. So I really like what the Texans did because they're just drafting based off like, hey, we know these guys. They had name value. Like Luke Lockley. It wasn't a long time ago. If you looked at some mock drafts, like in the beginning of like last season,
he was higher.
People were mocking him in the second round, like or a late first round pick to the Chiefs. I've seen that like a lot of times. So like getting a guy like that, like hoping that hey, he's an Iowa tight end, he'll figure it out in the league. Like that's what I like. I really like that they drafted guys like Jalen Reed and Jalen Smith, two guys that kind of had bad draft processes. They just saying, you know what, you have the name value to you. We're just gonna bank that you guys are actually like second to third round talents that most people projected you guys were, and take you in this situation. Obviously, Jalen Smith went in the third round, but you could have argued with his size and everything that he could have gone into the first. And then the Colts, I feel they just drafted just athletic freaks. Like they're just like let's just get as much freakishness that we can get. Let's just try to do it. Like Tyler Warren, I don't think they expected Tyler Warren to be there. Like I think the only fear for them was that a team would trade up to get a Tyler Warren because of how much, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people just said, okay, if he gets past the Jets, he's not getting past the Bears at 10. And then the Bears shocked everyone choosing Loveland. I'm sure teams were calling, and the Colts, they were just sweating. They were like, we really want Warren. We really want Warren. And when 14 hit, their pick was in. They weren't dicking around. They probably they probably entertained some phone calls, but they probably were like, nah, we got to get Tyler Warren, who will definitely help Richardson. I think the reason why they didn't draft a receiver, though, I think they just because they went so heavy in that position in previous drafts. I don't think they want to kill the morale of that group. I mean, Pittman was battling with all these random ass injuries. Like it was a bad year for Pittman, but there was plays he looked labored out there. He looked lumbered and stuff. So I feel like if you're someone that's doing a redraft in fantasy, you see Pittman fall to the 8th or 9th round. Don't give up on him because I think that would be a good guy that you just have on your bench, and then he could turn it up into later. I just think he was banged up last year. Adonai Mitchell didn't really get to see the field that much. Maybe he's developed into a better wide receiver this year. And then Downs and then the other kid that they have, Alec Pierce. I think they just realized we're good on receiver. We have guys that are like they know what these guys are doing in the offseason. And it's up to the players if they're telling the truth. But they must feel good about the receiving room where they're just like, let's not try to throw in like a drafted player in here. We'll bring in some UDFAs, of course, but let's not draft someone. Let's show these guys that we trust you, because I think all the receivers like are pretty much like high day 1, day 2 picks. Like they're not like guys that they drafted like in the 5th or 6th rounds. Like I can't think of. I think all of them are like kind of like day 2 picks.
I know Adonai Mitchell was a round 2 guy. Let me check.
Yeah, Pittman was like a round 2 guy.
Pierce is a round 2. Let me see Josh Downs.
Downs, I'm pretty sure is like round 3.
Josh Downs is round 3, and then Mike Pittman.
I wanted the Chargers to get him because I liked him a lot.
Pittman was also a 2nd round. So yeah, you're right. So, a lot of higher draft picks.
Yeah, so it's like you don't want to give up on those talents. And like I said, Pittman was labored. Like if you watch because I went back and watched some like Colts tape, and I was just like, damn, like what's wrong with Pittman right now? He just looks like he did not look like the receiver that they got the extension. So there was probably some injuries, and he's a tough kid, Michael Pittman. Like he's not going to sit down for some injuries. So, but yeah, they just like JT Tuamala, athletic freak and stuff. DJ Goddard's good athletic freak. Riley Leonard, that's a athletic freak in himself, and then also a good insurance to Anthony Richardson when Richardson gets tired or banged up. Riley Leonard is pretty much like Anthony Richardson. He's a solid enough passer. He can run, and he's good at that. So yeah, Trey Smith is also an athletic freak. So it was interesting with these guys' drafts. I would say I like the Texans more just because they chose guys with good pedigree to them and guys that potentially, like I look at Higgins, Noel, Emery, Smith, Reed, and Lockey. Those 7 could automatically be guys that could be part of this roster in the future and maybe see some good run their rookie seasons. So those are, especially Jaden Higgins. I think Jaden Higgins is like that dude's gonna do something. Like, he's good. Like, I like him a lot.
But from there, we turn to the AFC East, and the AFC East, there was some interesting things here. We have the Miami starting us off with Kenneth Grant, who I don't remember if he was mocked that high, but they definitely needed defensive help. And this is a team that, you can see they triple up on defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Kenneth Grant in the first, Jordan Phillips in the fifth. And then they were like, oh, for our last pick, we might as well just go defensive tackle again. But you notice that there's this gap here in the third and the fourth rounds where there's no picks because they kept trading out and trading down and trying to get more throughout the course of this draft. There also, I think, was some previous trades that affected round 3 and round 4 for Miami this year. But it's a very intriguing draft from the perspective of how much they were working to help that defense out. You have defensive tackle, cornerback, safety, defensive tackle. And then sprinkled in there is somebody for the offensive line, and you have Ollie Gordon II. And Ollie Gordon II is the one that intrigues me a lot because the Dolphins did lose Raheem Mostert in free agency. Now, Raheem Mostert is not, especially at his age, anybody that's going to, jump off the board from the perspective of what this person brings to the team, right? But what Raheem Mostert did do, especially not in 24 but 23, was really teach a lot of the ropes of being a running back to Devin Achane. And he was able to be that lead back, and Devin was more of the receiving back. And then Devin just took the league by storm, and we know how the Miami front office loves their speed guys. And Achane slowly took the more and more work from Raheem Mostert. However, with the departure of Raheem Mostert, you do not have a kind of a thumper running back. Yes, you did get Jalen Wright, I think, in the third round last year, but Jalen Wright didn't really see the field that much. And when he did, it wasn't like, the fireworks going off from the perspective of between the tackles running. So you get Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, who was a good between the tackles runner from what I remember. And he also offers some pass catching receiving back options. And this is important because you don't want to be in a situation where when Ollie's on the field, teams are like, it's a run. Or it's pure pass. He's going to be there to do pass pro. You want a situation where teams are like, maybe it is going to be Ollie Gordon who is going to be catching this pass. It's not going to be just a north-south running. You want to be able to keep things always defenses guessing. And so I think Ollie Gordon does offer them some opportunities there. I will say I did find it kind of funny. And like I said, I'm not as well versed on college ball. To see them take Quinn Ewers that late, to see him become a 7th round pick, I was like, damn, that is.
It was a weird pick too, because Ewers doesn't even play like the style that Miami runs is not what Quinn Ewers is good at all. Yeah, so it's just like
they're a much like Texas is much more of a pro style offense, and Miami is just like much more of that backyard football. Like, hey, if somebody gets open, ball finds them. And one thing that I really thought was interesting is, and I got it. You know what? Actually, I didn't get a chance to look while I was putting this list together, even though I was thinking to myself, what is going on here? But the Dolphins not taking a receiver is wild to me. When you have Tyreek Hill, who is, yes, he's still very, very good. But between him slowing down, but not slowing down domestic abuse violations and allegations, and Jalen Waddle, who is not slowing down either, but can get concussed very easily, I feel. I'm trying to figure out what's going on there in this receiving room. Now, granted, last year they did draft Taj Washington, and he doesn't play because of an injury, so they had him on IR. They did get Nick Westbrook-Akine from the Titans. So yeah, there are some receiving options, but the idea of not getting anybody I thought was pretty interesting. They were like, we really need to focus on this defense, because if we focus on this defense, the offense will work itself out, because we're just going to be so fast that nobody's going to be able to stop it. And that could work. But we'll be able to win them the division, because the next person on this list here, the next team on this list, is the division champions, the Buffalo Bills. And my goodness, did the Buffalo Bills say, we are going to make this defense impregnable. This is good. Like, when in a situation where the defense, in a few key instances, let the team down, we are going to do everything we can to help this defense. Cornerback, defensive tackle, defensive end, D tackle, cornerback. Then you just get a tight end, because Dalton Kincaid was like, I know you guys drafted me pretty highly, but I'm just going to take a step back last year. And so they're like, all right, cool, we'll get a tight end. Then cornerback, offensive tackle, because it's like, hey, we still got to protect Josh somehow. And then finally in the 7th round, they go, oh, shit. We didn't re-sign Amari Cooper. Keon Coleman looks like he's coming along. And Khalil Shakir is a great streaker, but we still need wide receiver help. All right, cool.
What do you mean? They got Joshua Palmer. They don't need anyone else. They got my dog Palmer.
But I realized I didn't drop where the pick numbers were for the rest of the Bills. But man, if the Bill, like, a part of me feels bad, because Josh Allen, it's like, how much more do you want Josh Allen to put this team on his back? Like, he can do it, obviously. He did it last year. He's done it multiple years in a row. But that offense is literally Josh Allen finding somebody down there, Josh Allen running the ball, or Josh Allen handing the ball to James Cook / finding James Cook in the receiving game. That is the entirety of the Bills offense. And I know I literally just described every single NFL offense, but the amount of effort that is put, or requirement that is put on Josh Allen's shoulders, is incredible. And yes, this wasn't like the greatest wide receiver group class in the world. And I'm sure at pick 30, they were like, well, Tet McMillan's definitely not going to be there at this point. And they were like, how much?
Hey, man, we can't call him Tet no more. His mom will get mad at us.
how much are we going to pay to move up to get McMillan if we are that interested in him? So I understand it, but at the same time, it's just like, man, how much can one person be expected to do between Josh and James Cook? And it's like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be something that not this year, but like next year, is it going to be something that is a drawback? Because next year, people are all going to be 1 year older. They're all going to have another year of injuries. There's all, whatever the heartbreaking loss that they had to the Chiefs or the Ravens in the playoffs, whatever happened. And it's going to be like, where's the next man up? Who are we developing to be somebody who can get this offense where it needs to be? That's more what's intriguing to me about this draft. But at the very least, if they lose, it'll be a low-scoring game, because this defense is going to be really good at keeping the ball out of the end zone. Then you turn to New England. And if New England, the first thing first is you got to get a quarterback, right? And to me, the draft where you get the quarterback is not even the most important draft. It's the draft after you get the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really, you could get Tom Brady, you could get Peyton Manning. It doesn't matter. They all need help. And so the question is, how do you address the help that the team needs once you know you have the quarterback? So that's why the draft after the quarterback, to me, arguably is more important than the draft where you do get the quarterback. And here you see a really, to me at least, well done draft. You start off by getting Will Campbell, and you have that man in tears saying that he would die to defend Drake May, who he's never met in his life, probably. He's probably never met him. Maybe at one point during if they had those one-on-one interviews at Gillette in Foxborough, maybe Drake May was there. But odds are probably high that he's never met this man in his life, and I don't know. Maybe he did. But he's already like, I will live, breathe, and die to defend this man. I'm like, that's what you want in a left tackle. Like, who cares about the size of his arm length or whatever the hell the thing was, or hands?
Yeah.
Like, you want the effort. Like, you can find a way to work around some limitations, and hand length or whatever the hell the thing was, it's not going to matter if that is the mentality that they bring. And then on top of that, you add TreVeyon Henderson. And TreVeyon Henderson is a really good running back, a really, really good running back from Ohio State. And you already had problems with Antonio Gibson putting the ball on the ground. You had benched Ramondre Stevenson because of fumbles. And this is a situation where now you have somebody that you at least can feel a little bit more confident is going to be contributing to the offense. I know that in our dynasty drafts, the projected points for him right now is still like 0.0. And I'm like, that's going to change but for the season. But it is a great addition for that team in the second round. It annoyed the shit out of me because I was waiting there with Denver at 51. I was like, if somebody takes TreVeyon, at least there's Quinshon. And if somebody takes Quinshon, there's at least TreVeyon. And then both of them went. I was like,
they both went early in the second round.
Like, why did this have to happen to me? But the New England Patriots continued to build on this team by adding more offensive line people. They add a seventh round offensive tackle. They add a third round center. They add to this defense because the New England defense was gassed at different points last year. And granted, a lot of it was because Jacoby Brissett was playing quarterback and Drake May was also learning the offense. But you add more pieces to that defense. And finally, Kyle Williams. It's not necessarily like high pedigree of a receiver, but what it is somebody who is going to be a bit of a game changer and a bit of a difference maker for that offense. And somebody that, like, yes, you tried last year with Javon Baker and Jalen Polk, didn't really work out. You have Pop Douglas. He seems to have a bit of a ceiling. You bring in Stephon Diggs. And yes, Diggs is older, but what Diggs can do is Diggs can teach. Diggs is basically on a contract that, for the long-term perspective of the Patriots, is you are in essence the assistant wide receivers coach. And it's wild to me because, like, the player that they chose has the reputation of being like a little bit of a superstar diva wide receiver. So it's like, is he going to really want to do that? Who knows? But there are the little things that players can pick up just by watching somebody in practice. And whether these guys, Polk, Baker, Williams now, whether they do that, that's on them to improve themselves and make themselves more valuable to the team. But you at least did something to continue to help Drake May. And from that perspective, you got to love it. And that takes us to the Jets. And, in a normal situation, this is not a bad draft. It's a fine draft. Like, you added an offensive tackle to keep building that offensive line. You get Mason Taylor, who's going to be the Tyler Conklin. Mason Taylor has almost zero competition to step into the tight end one role. You added another cornerback to try to help Sauce Gardner because, sometimes Sauce Gardner is not good, apparently. But, he's no defensive player of the year, but he's Sauce Gardner. And then you've got more wide receiver help because Garrett Wilson is kind of by himself. It's him and Alan Lazard. And that's why a lot of people would mock Tyler Warren to the Jets. And you do a little bit of things here to help the defense. But why did I say in a normal situation this would be a good draft? Because I don't know. I'm not fully sold on Justin Fields as being the quarterback for the New York Jets from a long-term perspective. And yes, maybe the third team is where it's going to work out. But at the same time, you're coming into that team with a lot of baggage of multiple head coaches in Chicago, head coach situation in Pittsburgh and the Arthur Smith offense. And now you're learning another offense and trying to figure out how you fit in. I'm interested to see how exactly this is going to work out. I do think that the Jets are building a strong team from the perspective of being the team that everyone says is, quote unquote, a quarterback away. There's always one team every year that people say they're a quarterback away. And for a long time, it was the Jets. And then they got Aaron Rodgers, and people were like, this is going to be great. And then, everything that happens. but we'll see how that one works out for them. I do think that Mason Taylor, from a fantasy perspective, is going to be really good, especially if you are, you need a tight end 2 on your team. Like maybe you got the, you got the Hawkinsons or the Laportas of the world earlier on, and now you're saying, what do I do for a bye week fill-in if you're drafting and you want to take a tight end 2, or you're looking at the waiver wire? I think he will definitely be an option there, because something tells me that Justin Fields will be using the safety blanket of Mason Taylor a lot. So we'll see. But how did you feel about the AFC East draft?
Yeah, Miami's, it was pretty obvious. Like they went with a lot of defense because their offense was barely on the field last year. Because like after when Tua went out, that offense went stagnant, and that defense was just gassed so many games. So I know a lot of Miami fans weren't happy with the Kenneth Grant pick, but I think they're gonna like Kenneth Grant. I liked Kenneth Grant a lot. I liked him a lot more than Mason Graham at one point in time watching film, because I was watching film on Mason Graham, and Kenneth Grant just popped up to me. I'm like, well, this guy's good. So I like their picks from the defensive perspective because, hey, look, man, we don't know with Tua. Like Tua gets hurt. That's why they drafted a guy like Quinn Ewers. Like you can't be throwing out whoever that Kansas State kid was. I forgot, Skylar Thompson. You can't throw out that porn star. You can't throw him out anymore. It's just he's just not good. So hopefully Quinn Ewers, who is a different quarterback but does have arm strength, like he can actually throw the ball vertical. He's not limited from his arm. Maybe that helps out if Tua has to miss time. But you got defensive pieces of guys that can fill in depth and needs that you desperately need, especially in the secondary, because there's talks about them possibly trading Jalen Ramsey away. So that's something that we have to keep an eye on as well. So I liked their draft. I thought it was good. Buffalo's draft, it was clear. They really they asked Josh Allen, do you need help? Josh Allen says, no, I got this. And so they said, can we just draft defense? Absolutely. And because they saw what the Eagles did, and they said, we got to replicate that, because that's the only way to stop freaking the Chiefs and Mahomes.
Yep.
We went with Maxwell Hampton, because that was a problem. Once their top corner went out, they didn't have anyone else. They didn't have anyone else that could play quarterback. So they got good depth at corner, but they also got guys that can rush the passer. TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, and then also Dolan Walker. Those are guys that will get after the quarterback. And that's something that they were missing, was guys that could get after the quarterback when it really, really mattered. Like Von Miller, obviously took a step back and they didn't want to pay him all that money. So really like what Buffalo did here, because they know what they need to do to get over the hump. They trust Josh Allen. They don't care. Like Josh Allen, obviously he's shown us it don't matter who his receivers are. He's going to find a way to get to the ball to his playmakers. He's almost like a Phillip Rivers that can move, where it's just like, hey, who cares who your wide receivers are? Can you trust this player and you think you get the ball? Like a lot of the Bills receivers, they're like big catch radius guys. They can get open in the zone defenses. Like Khalil Shakir, he's like their most reliable wide receiver. You have Joshua Palmer, who is now, like your big body, deep threat wide receiver. And then hopefully you get something out of Keon Coleman, who's more like your route running wide receiver. And obviously we all know once it gets down to the 10-yard line, the red zone, the money zone, that's James Cook, Josh Allen territory. Like good luck stopping it. It's like one of the hardest backfield tandems to stop. So I really like that they went full on defense mostly in this draft, because they really need to stop the Chiefs. That's like their main obstacle. They know they can beat the Ravens. They know they can beat other teams in the AFC. The one team they just can't seem to figure out when it matters most in the playoffs is the Chiefs. So getting guys that can get after Patrick Mahomes, that's great. I absolutely love New England's draft. I felt they just killed it. Like getting a guy like Campbell, that's awesome. You got Travion Henderson, who was my running back 3 in this draft class, a guy that, has a cool story himself, pretty much lost a lot of confidence. He was a day one starter at Ohio State, and then afterwards lost a lot of confidence and, found God again, and then was okay with Quinshon Judkins coming in, like, because he wanted the team to win. And that sounds like a Patriot, a guy that just wants to win, a Mike Vrabel type of guy, brings a lot of speed. Kyle Williams, another guy, brings a lot of speed. My favorite pick, Jared Wilson. This guy, oh my, I want him for the Chargers. Like, they list him as a center. This guy can play guard. If you need to, he can play tackle. He is just an overall stud of an offensive lineman. And I like that pickup a lot because they picked up guys, and then Marcus Bryant. When I was watching Membu tape, this guy stood out to me too as Marcus Bryant. Like I didn't think he was like a day two prospect after watching his tape, but I said, man, a team that wants to run the football, they're gonna like having a guy like Marcus Bryant on their team. And yeah, I look at the Patriots; they're setting up as a team that wants to run the football, and they got a guy like Marcus Bryant. So, and then Braden Swinson, this guy was a menace at LSU. Like I felt this guy was a day two talent. I don't know what happened where he fell to the fifth round, but this guy was a menace at Louisiana State University, and so very good draft. I would say the Patriots, if I were to give it A plus, they're like my first A plus. I really like a lot of their picks. They got guys that can also help out in special teams as well. But I just feel they got a lot of value. Like Campbell's a starter. Trayvon Henderson can become a starter or your running back too for the future. Kyle Williams, I think, is a starter. Jared Wilson's an easy starter. Joshua Farmer can move into a starting role. Swinson, I think, is going to be a starter. And Marcus Bryant, good swing tackle who could hopefully develop into a starter. So I like their pick. Well, the Jets, I like who they drafted, but like you, it's like they don't really have like the infrastructure. Like this felt like a team that has a quarterback, and they just like drafted good players and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I like Membu. I think Membu was the right pick. They needed to fix that offensive line. Mason Taylor's a stud. They got a good pick there. Azira Thomas, I really liked him at Florida State. He's also a big, long, lengthy corner, so that pairs up well with Sauce. And they also lost the guy to the Lions. I forgot DJ Turner. I think DJ Turner went to Detroit, so they lost him. Arian Smith, that's the one pick where I'm like, really? Like that was a reach. Like he had a lot of drop issues at Georgia. Good speed, but those drop issues, those were bad. But man, getting my guy Malachi Moore. Malachi Moore, he had a little bit of issues in his last year at Bama, but he's Nick Saban approved. Nick Saban said that there was only two players that he was going to stay at Alabama for. They were Caleb Downs and Malachi Moore, and then Caleb Downs transferred out, and that's when Nick Saban bowed out at Alabama. Malcolm Moore is a natural leader. He's a little bit crazy at the safety position, but he's someone that I feel like can play nickel very, very well for the Jets for what they need. And maybe not a traditional safety, but definitely good in the box type of safety. Think Brian Branch, just like a slower Brian Branch. That's the only way I can really explain Malachi Moore. But yeah, just great leadership. But yeah, I really like what the Bills and the Patriots did because I feel the Bills, they know what they need to do to win. They already have the quarterback. They trust their quarterback with their decision making. Like I think the Bills are set up for success, and I think the Patriots just killed this draft. Like they just got guys that if none of these guys are actually impact players from their draft, at least 6 of them, I'm gonna be shocked. I'm literally gonna be shocked. I'm gonna be like, what the fuck happened? Where these guys weren't good enough players to be I like Will Campbell. That's my for sure. I think Will Campbell and Braden Swanson. Those are the two that I'm saying oh yeah, they're for sure. But everyone else, I'm like, if none of these guys hits, I'm going to be like, oh, what happened? Maybe they just suck at drafting.
So I'm super intrigued by what the Bills did this offseason, which is they already they had already extended.
They got Bosa, they got Palmer, they got my dudes, man. I'm rooting for the Bills.
They already extended Josh Allen once, and they were like, you know what? We're just going to do it again. And so it's a 6-year, $330 million contract with $250 million guaranteed, an average annual salary of $55 million. Now, his cap hit this year, just listen to this. His cap hit this year is $36 million. Then in 26, it's 56.3. 27, it's $53 million. And you're like, okay, that's not too, that's acceptable range considering how much Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray are getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay, wait for it though. 28.
They gave him the Mahomes deal. They said let's lock him up.
That's what my thought process is. In 28, it jumps to 59 mil. In 29, it jumps to 86 million. And then in 2030, it's $80 million. Now, I don't know what the salary cap will be by 2029. But whatever it is, Josh Allen will probably still be cheaper than what $86 million is.
Yeah,
And I
no,
think we realized that this is what allowed the Chiefs to do what the Chiefs have done,
yeah.
was to lock Mahomes down. And you and I have talked about this, and I've been on record multiple times, both when it happened and every year prior, that the smartest thing that the Chiefs ever did
Oh
was
yeah.
to sign him to that 10-year deal. Because
That was that's the greatest deal in NFL history. I don't
oh
care
my
what
God,
anyone says. They pretty much were just like, you won us a Super Bowl, here's a contract extension. And then people were like, oh my God, he's getting all this money, blah blah. I'm like, no, that 10-year deal is really just a 3-year deal. And it's just hidden in that 10 years where they won't lose any. They played it so smart. And that's what the Bills did too, because now the best part is the Bills, unlike the Mahomes deal, we're at the end where like they had to restructure Mahomes because like they saw that Joe Burrow got paid, and they're like, Mahomes is like, hey man, I
yeah,
don't know if you noticed, I've won 2 of these teams. This guy has not won one yet. Like, we're like, how come he's the highest paid quarterback? They're like, oh yeah, Pat, we got you, buddy. And they were
yeah,
able to restructure him easily. This one, the Bills, it's almost like we don't have to worry about restructuring Josh Allen because by the time it's 29 to 2030, he's already going to get that big cap boost and stuff. And then what's good about this too is because it's only 250 million guaranteed. Say if Josh Allen just falls off a cliff for whatever reason, hey, he already got his 250 million guaranteed. We can cut him. We don't have to pay him this 80 mil. Like he'll just get whatever partial payments that he needs to get, but it won't affect our cap because we guarantee the 250 already.
think about how wonderful that is for Josh Allen too, because like you can just look at and you know what like I get what I'm about to say comes across a little bit misogynistic. I understand that, but he has the ability to look at Haley Steinfeld and go, listen. You want $50 million to start a production company and make your own movies how you want to make them? Go for it. And I know Haley Steinfeld does very well for herself and probably doesn't need the $50 million from him to do that production company. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to have an extra $50 million to do the production.
Just do it. Just do what The Rock did. Like that's what The Rock does with $7. Like he made that production company so that way he can make roles for him specifically,
Yeah,
and then he just partners up. He just partners up with a bigger studio, and then it's just
right.
like, well, it's really Dwayne's
like,
movie.
when it comes to Hollywood, that's where the money is. It's in when you are self-financing the production, and you see eventually almost every single major Hollywood star will create their own production company. Like Tom Cruise ended up not owning, but like running United Artists for a very long period of time. Brad Pitt has not Brad Pitt. Leonardo DiCaprio has Appian Way. All of these guys and gals have production companies that they run their stuff through. Reese Witherspoon. People don't know how much like Reese Witherspoon's production company does, but it's huge. Nicole Kidman also doing those sorts of things. So like the Bills just were like, okay, what do you want? Done. They were like, just take care of it. And now Josh Allen has the comfortability to know he is taken care of for. I mean, he was already taken care of for the rest of his life with his already career earnings that he's had. But like, hey, not that bad for a guy that had to go to junior college, then transfer to Wyoming and do all these sorts of things and like make tapes like why you should draft me, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like, made it. That it's almost to the point that, and I'm me personally, I'm the kind of person where it's like, if I was playing in the NFL, I would care much more about the money I was making than the ring. Like I'll just be honest. Like I would not like, for example, the Myles Garrett's and Max Crosby's of the world, where they were like, we really want to win, and then they got these huge deals, and they're like, well, maybe winning's not that important. I would be completely upfront if I was a superstar player, and I'd be like, pay me. I don't give a shit.
So you'll be Bradley Beal, like how Beal is in the NBA, where Beal is just like, no, I just want to get paid. I don't care about it.
I mean, my perspective would be like, if we win a ring, that's
great.
That's great. But the ability for me to take care of my family and my family's family for the rest of their lives, way better.
I think defensive play. I think for quarterbacks, it's a little bit harder. They have to also think about the ring and the money. But like guys like Crosby and Myles Garrett, we're not going to be like, well, they didn't win a ring. Like we're just like, oh, it sucks they never won a ring.
Right. Like,
but if Josh Allen doesn't win a ring, we're going to be talking about, man, can you believe he didn't win one ring? Like,
I guess the perspective I'm looking at it is like, unless you're going to win a busload of rings, right? Unless you get like 4, right?
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of statistical stuff, you're never going to be compared to Peyton Manning. You're never going to be compared to Tom Brady. You're never going to be compared to Joe Montana. So it's like you might as well just make a shitload of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I'm telling people right now.
People got to be realistic about who they are in this world and understand that there's always going to be somebody better than you. Even Tom Brady right now is like, there's going to be somebody that wins 8 rings. There is. It's just going to happen sooner or later.
Like Aaron Donald, even if he didn't win a ring, we're still considering him one of the best players to ever play football. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, he didn't win a ring. It's like, well, he still was one of the best players in football that I've ever seen. So I don't know what you want me to do there. Like, he was still fucking great. Like, and I think Aaron Donald, he's probably the one that's not as well off. He could have been making a shit ton of money if he still played.
Yeah, it's wild. I was reading a thing on Reddit where it's some nonsense about in the marriage subreddit, some nonsense about like somebody getting an inheritance and whether they share it with their spouse or whatever. But like the point was that it was $120,000 was the inheritance, and people were saying that's not really that much money. And I'm like, well, if you think about it, $120,000. If you just
that's a lot of money.
I'm like, if you just invest that in a retirement account and you don't even touch it, like you don't think about it, you act as though you don't have it. In 30 years at 8%, and the market's average return is 10%, that is $1.2 million. You go to sleep like a baby every single night because you're like, my retirement's taken care of.
Yeah, like that's what I did when I got inheritance money. It's a retirement account.
There is such a value to be placed on peace of mind, right? And if you remember, that was the point of the scene. Obviously, it was to celebrate his accomplishments and so on and so forth. But that was part of the scene in Hard Knocks with the Bears when they do the contract extension with DJ Moore. And DJ Moore's point was, I now feel so comfortable because I know my family's taken care of. Like, he's going to make all this money. And so this idea that these players, not everybody's going to be able to win a ring. For example, the Eagles last year drafted somebody that was a rookie on the team that made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. There's a high likelihood that that player will not only never win another ring, but never even win another Super Bowl, not even play in a Super Bowl. So it's like, there's only so many people. There's only 53 people plus practice squad and whatever that are going to be able to win a Super Bowl every single year. Make the money, but just don't lie.
It would suck if you're a rookie too. Like, you win a Super Bowl early, and then you're just like, great. Now I have to play like hard for the next 3 to 4 years to get that second contract, because you're not like you already won. You won the one thing that you wanted, but now it's like that's what people play for, and it's just like, damn. Now I have to find the drive to like not only wanting to get back, but then also wanting to get that second and third contract. That's why it's like.
Imagine you're like the Eagles' 7th round rookie from last year or 6th round rookie.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm still only making like $500,000. Like, okay.
Yeah, like look at if Purdy won that one Super Bowl, it's like, cool, dude, you won the Super Bowl, but not guaranteed that they're gonna re-sign you to this mega deal that you're gonna get. Like, you're still bumming off your girlfriend's money.
Honestly, if the Niners had won that Super Bowl, you could make an argument that the amount of conversation about whether or not Purdy was a system quarterback would be increased even more, because the odds of them winning another one would be lower. So then people would just be like, it was a fluke that Purdy won the Super Bowl. It's not because of him. But now, because they have faced the adversity, if the Niners win the Super Bowl, it's a stronger argument that Purdy can make and be like, they won it because of me. There's just that aspect to it that is that's pretty intriguing. But we have gone off on a tangent long enough, because for us, at least for you and I, the most important division to talk about is now up with the Super Bowl winners of the 2025 season. And I'll be kind enough to say that it's either the Chargers or the Broncos. But we will be talking now about the AFC West, because God forbid if Kansas City wins another Super Bowl. I'm not saying I would shoot myself, but like, I'd think about it. My wife would kill me if I actually thought about it, which would be ironic. But anyway, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. And you have immediately jumping off the board Josh Simmons, and you're thinking to yourself, that's pretty interesting, because it's sort of a luxury pick. It's sort of not a luxury pick at the same time, because the Kansas City offensive line has taken some steps back, and they have also traded away some people like the Joe Thunnies of the world. So having somebody who can step into that offensive line, provide it with some fresh legs, provide it with a little bit of juice, that's important. But also then you see they're continuing to build out that defense, and you see Omar Norman Lott come in round 2. You see Ashton Gillott coming in as a defensive end. Noel Williams, you're like, okay, are they going to go offense? And they go, all right, yeah, we'll do the normal Kansas City thing. We'll draft some random wide receiver, and Pat's going to make this person great. Because the offense of the Chiefs is very interesting. And you and I have talked about this a lot. You and I deal with this offense 4 games between the two of us.
Yeah.
Runs through Rashee Rice. That is how that offense works now. It doesn't work. It doesn't operate through Travis Kelce anymore. And yes, Travis Kelce is returning for another season. This guy really should just retire and, get married to Taylor Swift. I don't know, but hey, he wants to keep playing and thinks he's going to win another ring. And that's, people should have goals and aspirations in life. But the offense doesn't work through him anymore. It works through Rashee Rice, and then to a lesser extent, it works through Isaiah Pacheco. And we saw in real time what happens when both of those guys are not there.
Yeah.
The Chiefs were a lifeless offense last year. And I have been talking about this for, I think, 2 years now, about how Patrick Mahomes has regressed and that he is still making good plays, but a lot of these throws don't have the same zip on them. Mm-hmm. There is something going on there, and I don't know exactly what it is. And maybe this is a situation where, at least for last year, he just really needed Isaiah Pacheco and he really needed Rashee Rice. And Pacheco came back for the stretch run in the playoffs, but he also needed some time to really get back to being Isaiah Pacheco. And we'll see after this offseason whether he is back to being that guy, which is what's really intriguing about that 7th round pick, Rashard Smith. He is very similar of a runner to Isaiah Pacheco and his ability to catch it out of the backfield. But I do think, different things make different people unique. Everybody's unique in their own way. But Pacheco has that just angry run aspect to him, and I don't know if Rashard Smith really has that. We'll see. But the thing is, behind Pacheco, there's really nobody. And so there's a very good opportunity for Rashard Smith to win the RB2 role on this team and to be able to contribute from that pass-catching perspective. Jalen Royals, I don't know that much about him from Utah State, but I'm not anticipating a situation where the offense stops moving through Rashee Rice. I think is the real place where I'm going with that. I think that he at least gives them the ability to use Xavier Worthy much better as a downfield deep threat to be able to draw those safeties and draw those cornerbacks back, because you're playing in a division with 2 killer defenses. There is no way to say anything. I don't know how to put over our respective defenses more than by saying they absolutely murder people if given the opportunity. It's batshit insane. And now we're actually going to start talking about those defenses, because in the first round, Denver, and who was heavily anticipated to take a running back, goes Jahdae Barron. And you could argue that it is a absolute luxury pick, because you have the defensive player of the year, I don't think it's a homer take, the undisputed best cornerback in the league.
He is.
And you have that person locking down an entire side of the field. You have Brandon Jones as a safety who came on very well for the Broncos after bringing him in free agency. Then the Broncos add Hufanga, who is a really great safety for the Niners. I think it's just a money issue that they couldn't bring him back, but he joins the Denver Broncos. Then you have Dre Greenlaw, who joins the Denver Broncos, also from the Niners. And that's a situation where, as a kid, he always loved the Broncos and he always wanted to play for the Broncos. And so it kind of was a situation where, despite the fact that the Niners were money strapped, it sort of was it doesn't matter how much money you want to offer me, I really want to play with the Broncos. And personally, I appreciate that. But this defense now, with the addition of Jahdae Barron, you're thinking to yourself, why would you pick that person? Well, I will tell you, because Riley Moss last year, after his injury, when he came back, was a bit of a liability. But on
Yeah, it wasn't as good.
But on top of that, when Riley Moss wasn't there, everybody else behind Pat Surtain was an absolute liability. Jaquan McMillan did a very good job of trying to fill in there, but you really saw like that Cleveland game, while entertaining as hell for everybody else watching, except for the Cleveland Brown fans and the Broncos fans, should have been nowhere near as close. There's no situation where Jerry Jeudy should be getting 214 or 215 yards in one game. Why was he able to do that? Because Riley Moss wasn't playing, and then they had Jaquan McMillan in there. So now you add in Jahdae Barron. If he can be that cornerback too, or be the nickel cornerback, it really helps this defense a lot. On top of that, you finally get the Joker for Sean Payton and RJ Harvey. This is a situation where first you have Denver passes on a running back, and we will get to the running back that was taken right after, you assholes. But then, Travion Henderson and Judkins go almost immediately back to back. I think it was like 30, either 37
or 38.
Yeah, or like 38th and 40th or something like that to the Browns and the Patriots respectively. And it's a situation where it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? So I think that Denver wanted Henderson, but once Henderson was taken, they were like, we still know who we want, but now the odds of that person getting taken are even lower. So we're going to trade out, and then they traded out again, and they pick up RJ Harvey at the back end of the second round with pick 60. And RJ Harvey is, by all metrics that I can look at and find, a really good running back. Now, obviously there's drawbacks because he would have been drafted higher, right? But at the same time, from different metrics, he is the second highest graded running back behind Genty on certain things when you're looking at it. So how exactly that's going to fit in, we shall see. But between RJ Harvey, between Evan Engram, you have to imagine that Peyton has gotten his new versions, or the 2025 versions of Darren Sproles / Alvin Kamara and Jimmy Graham. We will see how that works out. Now, on top of that, they add Pat Bryant, which was a bit of a head scratcher for a lot of people, but Peyton has compared Pat Bryant's line of scrimmage technique to Michael Thomas, and I'll take that comparison. Obviously, it's not going to be a one-to-one, and Pat Bryant has, I think, like 4.61 40 time, so he's not as fast as Michael Thomas, but there was an agility question, and the agility and the ability to twist and make those catches, that's what we're going to be interested in here, because what Denver really needed was a possession receiver. They had Cortland Sutton being the 50-50 guy, and then after that, Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims. Mims was like a field stretcher, and Troy Franklin was like, I can drop balls, and that's really what I can do very, very well. And then you add more pieces to this defense between Savion Jones and Q Robinson. Now, I'm going to let Chase, when he's doing his aspect of it, talk to you guys about Q Robinson, because that's his Alabama guy. But this was a great situation for Broncos for who they added. I'm not going to quibble about a punter in the sixth round. However, the only thing I will say is he needs to be a freaking amazing punter, because if Denver had not taken him, they could have taken Tez Johnson. And Tez Johnson going for the Buccaneers at 238. And I remember I texted you, and I was like,
that was a hard stadium. I can't wait till we get to the Buccaneers draft. That draft confused the fuck out of me.
And the thing is, it's not even that Tez Johnson is a great receiver. It's not. He's smaller than Tank Dell, the same height as Tank Dell. He weighs less than Tank Dell, but he's really fast. However, there's something to be said for the power of family. And I believe that every single time Bo Nix snapped the ball, he would hear the angelic but also very deep bass voice of Dominic Toretto in his ear going, "You can't beat family." And then he would just chuck it, and Tez Johnson would come out of nowhere and catch the ball, touchdown, Denver Broncos, they win the game. That was my belief. But, obviously I live in a dream world. But let's turn from a dream world to the real world with Chase's Los Angeles Chargers. And you have to say it's the real world because this is a team that lives and breathes through running the ball. And once you get hit, oh, you feel it. You feel it if you're a defensive tackle trying to stop Amari and Hampton. And this is a situation where last year they did a great job with J.K. Dobbins. They did a great job with Gus Edwards, but those are limited running backs. And they signed them to one-year deals. And now they're no longer there. So they were like, we got to figure something out.
Did you hear about Dobbins? So we did the weird, rare free agency tender on him. So if no team picks him up, then he comes back to us for one more year on a $3.46 million deal.
He's not going to see the playing field, though. So
hey, I'll take Dobbins as like my third running back. Like, that's not a bad third running back to have.
It's a luxury to have, and it's something that's great to have because
the Chargers actually got a kid, undrafted free agent, Raheem Sanders from South Carolina.
Yeah,
just as big as Omari and Hampton. There's a dream where it's just for the next 4 years after this 1 year of Najee Harris and Hampton, I just have Hampton and Sanders just running through everyone. It's I love that pickup. We also got DJ Ugulata. Did you see what number we gave him?
No, what'd you give him?
We gave him Keenan Allen's number. So much for a Charger legend. DJ Ugulata can get him.
Okay, that's just hilarious because Keenan Allen's still a free agent. So it's like he could have just re-signed, but they were like, have you met Lad McConkey? Like, it's going to be all right, Keenan. We'll be okay about you. But, the Chargers were probably, I would think, we're thinking of somebody else at pick 22. But then Denver goes, we do need a running back, but would be better than a running back right now? Jahdae Barrett. And the Chargers, we're going to fill out this card. We will send it. We will send it now. And they pick up Amari and Hampton with that first-round pick in pick number 22. And Hampton is joining a backfield of Najee Harris, who, so realistically, it's two guys learning the playbook at the same time, and one of them does not have fresh legs, but Hampton does. So the odds of Hampton winning the backfield job is much higher than Najee Harris winning the backfield job. But throughout the rest of this draft, you just see great pick after great pick. Trey Harris coming in there, a great receiver out of Ole Miss. And now you have somebody to pair with Lad McConkey. And you have people who are better than Quentin Johnson trying to catch passes from Justin Herbert. Now, I will say that I know that they lost Will Disley, but they added Tyler Conklin. We'll see this whole.
No, we still have Disley. We lost Stone Smart. And
Disley left as well.
No, Disley's still on the team.
Oh, Disley's still there, but you add Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, we lost Stone Smart and someone else. We lost all our tight ends with Bud Disley.
Okay, so maybe I was confusing the other
Hayden Hurst. That's who we lost. We lost Hayden Hurst.
There we go.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't like you were seeing the field.
We'll see how Oronde Gadsden works out. Tyler Conklin's still very young, so there's a lot of opportunity there to see where he's going to fit in. But that gives Oronde Gadsden, who is a converted tight end, a bit of time to learn the position better, and not just the position itself, but the position how Harbaugh wants him to play it. So that'll be interesting to see. I'm going to let you tackle the defensive side of the ball because that's your bit more special there. But before we get there, Raiders. Ashton Jeanty, to nobody's surprise, first running back off the board. There was a conversation about whether the Bears were going to trade up. When you and I did our mock draft, we had the Bears move up to make that trade. There was rumors and conversation coming out on the night of the draft that the Bears were going to move up. You and I looked like geniuses at that point in time, but the trade did not go through, and Jeanty does fall to the Raiders. The only team that probably ran faster, running back jokes, than the Chargers with Amari and Hampton was Pete Carroll somehow running really fast to put in Ashton Jeanty's name. And Jeanty looks like he looks like a superstar. He looks like a generational talent at running back. The question there is going to be, he didn't always face the toughest of defenses, but when he was playing against Penn State, and I think it was Ohio State,
and Oregon too.
Oregon,
he killed Oregon. Yeah,
I knew it started with an O. He still put up a good amount of yardage, not as high as like the 200 and ridiculous number of games and like 7 touchdowns or whatever, but still a respectable amount. And now he's going to be with a NFL offense that can block. So we'll see how, like, what that growing pain adjustment is. The Jack Beck pick I find very interesting, not because Jack Beck is like this super great receiver, but if you get an endorsement from Tom Brady comparing you to Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, I'm at least going to pay attention. Like, I'm at
I don't know.
least
Look at the school you went to. Come on.
oh, TCU, so what?
Quentin Johnson, Jalen Rager, Pope on the charges right away. Like let's you gotta learn. Just stop drafting TCU talent. Like for every Darius Davis, there's like a bunch of TCU bums at wide receiver.
But you've got the Raiders adding more offensive line help in round 3. That's really interesting because you're going to need to block with Genty. You're going to need to protect Geno Smith. Geno Smith is like, thank God somebody's drafting offensive tackle for me, getting me offensive line help. And I'm going to let you break down the double quarterback pickup because I don't think either of them are they're anticipating either of them to be the Geno Smith successor. But overall, what are your thoughts on the greatest division in the NFL and their draft this year?
Yeah, I think all 4 teams did a great job, to be honest. The Chiefs, sure up that offensive line issues with Josh Simmons. That's one of the reasons why they failed in the Super Bowl. And like I predicted, when everyone was calling me crazy when I was like, yeah, that Eagles D-line is going to kill the Chiefs offense. And everyone was like, no, Mahomes. And I was like, guys, I'm sorry. I've been watching film like a madman for the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, I saw what I saw, and we've been on the Chiefs are vulnerable bandwagon for like the whole time during when we were predicting last season. So, yeah, I like that pickup with Josh Simmons, a guy that, like, look, they tried with these like other offensive tackles last year, the Kingsleys of the world and stuff, just didn't pan out. Get a guy that can be a day one starter and hopefully does pan out. Shoring up more gaps in that defense, like Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. You got to start paying some guys that you drafted, because I think that one draft that why am I drawing a blank on their corner's name? McDuffie, the McDuffie draft. All those guys are coming up soon, including Trey McDuffie. So you got to start filling up the holes, because you're not going to be able to pay everyone from that draft, and that draft was a special one because most of those guys were starters at the time. Like I think the stat for them was that they would have made the three-peat. They would have been the first draft class with at least most of those guys being starters, all getting three-peats. So that's insane in itself. I like the Royals pick because I think Royals, if Rashee Rice isn't 100%, he can kind of be like that Rashee Rice light that they were missing. And then same with Smith, where Smith can kind of fill in when Pacheco is not there. You got guys that can kind of fill in positions of need. So I like those pickups for them as well. I think the Chiefs did a very good job at keeping their roster as good as it is. Going to be a team that's going to be the top team in the NFL, but getting guys that can contribute. Like their second and third round picks, I don't not besides Noah Williams, who I think is a stud. I don't see Loft or Joe Lodi playing right away, but they're guys that will make an impact. They're guys that will actually do something for them down the line. Denver, I thought, also killed it in this draft. My least favorite pick is RJ Harvey, because you still don't have a legit RB1, but Harvey's like Darren Sproles. That's actually my player comp to him is Darren Sproles, like the tank back in the Kansas State days. So I like the Jahdae Barron pickup because, look, Surtain's a luxury to have, having one of the best defensive players in the league. That's a lot, especially at one of the hardest positions to find the best defensive player in the league. And Surtain has shown us in his short time in the league, consistency. It's not like many other top corners. Like this is the closest thing that we're going to get to prime Revis Island and everything. Like this is the closest thing we're going to get to it. And so getting a guy like Barron, who fits very well with your defense, and a guy that will help relieve a little bit for Surtain, that's also good. I like the Pat Bryant pickup because he actually reminds me of Colston. That was my player come to him. Was Marquise Colston. I just felt he's like the perfect Sean Payton type wide receiver, is just that guy like Pat Bryant. And I think he'll actually pan up really well. I like his tape in Kansas. I really like the pickups of Jones and Q Robinson, because not only are there guys that will fit well for special team needs, but they're also guys that were Denver, because they like to rotate their pass rushers a lot. these are guys that are straight streamlined pass rushers, especially Q Robinson. I think Q Robinson, like, he could have been a second round pick in my opinion. He was such a stud for Alabama. It was just that Bama changed their defense. So he he wasn't really playing as traditional as an edge a lot of times for Bama last year. Like sometimes they had him at off ball linebacker. So I think that's why his draft stock kind of went down. But as a pure edge, like you couldn't ask for anyone better. He reminds me a lot of Courtney Upshaw from his time at Alabama. So I really do like those pickups. And then also the Caleb Lohner guy, the tight end from Utah, that screams like a Sean Payton player, a guy that can run block, can catch the ball if needed.
Did you see his stat line in college?
Yeah, no, but he can run block.
4 targets,
that's all that matters.
4 catches, 4 touchdowns. I was like, I'm sold. As a 7th round pick.
Yeah. He's a run blocking tight end, but when you need him to catch it, he catches it. Like what do you want?
Which is that is exactly what Adam Troutman is.
Yeah.
And Troutman has been the starting tight end for the Broncos 2 years running now.
He's not a starter, but if you want to play Sean Payton football, you got to start running at some point in time. Yeah. And this guy is pretty much an extra lineman out there. Like this guy's a terrific run blocker. Like you're going to be like, wow, this guy's awesome as a run blocker. But yeah, as a red zone threat, he's big enough, and he'll catch the ball when you need him to catch the ball. Like especially because we know Payton, he likes to get tricky sometimes in the red zone. So I could definitely see some like trickery play where he's like just wide open by himself, and Nick's just floats him a touchdown or something. So yeah, like that pickup a lot too. The Chargers really like what they did too. Hampton was clearly the best player on the board, and there was talk to them trading back with the Eagles. But I think once they kind of realized that it was just like, oh, why trade back and risk? Like, there's no guarantee that Hampton, like, I'm pretty sure if the Texans saw that Hampton was going to be there, they would have not traded back. They would have just been like, nope, we are sitting right here and taking Hampton to pair up with Joe Mixon, because Hampton, even before, like, the draft, they asked if you could be paired up with any 2 running backs, who would you be paired up with? And he said either Joe Mixon or Najee Harris. And the Chargers didn't even sign Najee Harris at that point. So it's kind of funny that happens. It's like he just kind of spoke it. He spoke into existence. Obviously, Trey Harris, once again, the Chargers get another guy at around number 2 that I think is going to make an impact to the team. Harris is a man-beater corner. Like a lot of those stats are kind of inflated because of the way that Ole Miss plays their football, very fast tempo. So sometimes the teams weren't ready for Trey Harris and stuff. So like those man stats are that like him against man coverage stats, those are a little bit inflated compared to like what you may like. But I do like that pickup a lot. I think he's going to fill a big hole at that X receiver position. Kyle Kennard, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And if you look at all the list of all SEC Defensive Players of the Year, and they all end up kind of becoming Pro Bowlers for in the NFL. So that was a great pickup for the Chargers. And Lambert Smith, it seems like Darius Davis, I don't know if he's no longer the main dude to return punts. It seems like that's what we drafted him for, because he is a little bit faster than Davis. So that'll be kind of interesting. Mickens and Bridges, these are obviously because of like what Minter likes to run on defense. He loves to run with like a lot of safeties and he loves to have like 3 safeties back there. And Mickens and Bridges also are good special team players. RJ Mickens actually said that he was a 4-year starter at Clemson. He actually said, put me on special teams and I'll wreak havoc there. So a lot of pedigree too. A lot of these guys like had family members that played in the NFL. So I kind of like what the Chargers did there. And Hampton, I just love that pickup. Hampton's like the perfect back, because we're not going to run him to the ground his first year, but he can slowly get better as Herbert needs it. And Chargers fans that wanted a wide receiver so bad, wanted Golden. It's like, bro, look at our 2 most recent playoff loss and look at the rushing stats. That's why we lost the game, is because we couldn't run the fucking ball, not because we couldn't throw deep balls to the wide receivers. Like that wasn't the issue whatsoever. The issue was we couldn't control the clock. So really love those pickups with the Chargers. But the Raiders, the most Pete Carroll draft I've ever seen in my fucking life. Like this screams like Pete Carroll. He just drafts like schools that he likes, players that have the build that he likes in players. First of all, getting the best player on the board in Genti. You pair up Genti, a blue chip prospect, with another blue chip prospect in the last year in Bowers. So you get those 2. And then It's just like you just get guys that fit what you want to do with football. Like the two tackles that they drafted, both can also play guard as well. So you add up more depth to your offensive line. Thornian, a wide receiver out of Tennessee, fits the mold of like what Pete Carroll likes, what his wide receivers can do. And then the quarterback situation, the Montana State quarterback, Tommy McClure, was actually their wildcat quarterback. He wasn't really like an actual quarterback, like because Montana State was running this two quarterback system last year. So most likely this guy is going to transfer into being like an athlete. I don't know what position he's going to play, but that feels like a Pete Carroll type of move. And then they get a guy from a small school like North Dakota State, another Pete Carroll type of move, like such a Pete Carroll draft. But I like it because they just got good depth at the position and they got talent that will fit with what Pete Carroll needs. So I really can't complain about either of the four teams. I think all four teams just got better. And, like the Raiders with where they're at now, I think honestly could be a great sleeper, like to make the playoffs. Not guaranteed. That's why they're a sleeper. But I just think all four of these teams just got better. Like it's like you can't complain about either of these drafts.
Yeah, and we should note that for the purposes of how we will be paying attention very closely to this. Interestingly, if you look at it, granted the Kansas got Brashard Smith, but every team now has the running back. You guys have Hampton, the Raiders have Jonesy, the Chiefs have Pacheco, the Broncos have RJ Harvey. Now, what I meant was that you and I are in two dynasty leagues together. One of them is currently drafting. The other one just finished the draft a couple days ago. And you got Hampton, which I thought was very poetic. I traded back into the first to get RJ.
Did you see his number? Did you see what number he got?
No, what did he get?
8. It's a great number. Kobe Bryant. Love it. That's a jersey I'm so tempted to buy just because it's a nice jersey. It's number 8, Hampton on the back. Like, I have a thing that because I bought a Ryan Matthews jersey and a Melvin Gordon jersey when they were both rookies, and then they disappoint. Well, Matthews wasn't that bad. Like,
you gotta. Speaking of which, you gotta mention who announced the Trey Harris and Cole.
Oh yeah, Melvin Gordon.
They're cursed. I traded back into the first to get RJ Harvey, and then I had the first overall pick because of a previous trade, and I got Genty. So between the two of us, we have the 3 running backs from the AFC West that got drafted this year. But let's move now to the NFC South. And man, oh man. The Falcons said, you know what? We have, for a very long time, been drafting offense. We got Penix. We drafted Bijan. We drafted Algier the year before. We got Drake London. We spent that high draft pick on Kyle Pitts. You know what we didn't really do? We didn't really address the defense. So what are we going to do? We're going to do nothing but draft defense. And you got to at least respect the consistency and the drive to solve the problem. Now, whether or not they picked players that are going to really help them, that remains to be seen. But at the very least, they should be able to rush the quarterback better, get better pass rush than they had last year when they were damn near, I think they may have been, but damn near dead last when it came to generating pressure on the quarterback. And Caden Ellis is like, thank God, because now I don't have to wrap people up and tackle. He was their leading tackler, one of the league's leading tacklers, because people were able to move the ball against Atlanta. And now hopefully that will be different with Jalen Walker and with James Pierce Jr. But you can see they did like just defensive end, safety. And then they were like, we did lose Dahlman in free agency to the Bears. So let's get an offensive tackle in round 7. Dahlman's the center, but hey, anything that can help that offensive line and protect Penix a little bit more, I'll take for the Falcons. Turning to Carolina, they had a very intriguing draft because this was a year where they said, okay, we have trained Bryce Young up like a Pokemon a little bit better. And Andy Dalton was like, no, this is how you throw the ball. And Bryce was like, oh, that's how we do it. Okay, Nick Saban didn't teach me that part. And so then he got a little bit better. That's my little dig at there at Alabama. But he got better as a passer, and now he is continuing to improve. And so they said, all right, let's get him the help, because old man Thielen, as much as you and I may love him from a fantasy perspective or just as a player perspective, he's getting up there. And so they said, with an eye to the future, similar to how Mick Foley drafted Finn Balor back in the day, with an eye to the future, the Carolina Panthers said, we will grab Teteroa McMillan and pair this guy up with Bryce Young, and we are going to see what happens. And as the highest rated pure wide receiver in the draft, depending on how because Travis Hunter's playing both sides of the ball, but as the highest graded pure wide receiver in the draft, it's a great pickup for the Panthers. And this is going to give them so many incredible options. But then on top of that, you have to find ways to help the Panthers on defense, because between the Commanders, they faced like a terrible murderer's row of rookie quarterbacks. They faced the Commanders, they faced the Bears, they faced the Broncos, and they got blown out or destroyed in every single one of those games. And in the even sad part of the one with the Commanders was that James Daniels didn't even play the whole game. He left the game, and then it was Mariota coming in, and Mariota was just like, this is like the Chip Kelly offense right now, back in the day when it worked for a little bit, and it was making it work. So it's a situation where they had to get the help. They pick up Nick Skirton in the second round, who you and I, if I remember right, had mocked in the first round. But then they also add the edge rusher from Ole Miss, Prince. It's Umamiayan, I would assume, but Princely Umamiayan. They also bring in Trevor Etienne, which it kind of sucks, because obviously this is an unfortunate pick that they have to make, not because of Trevor Etienne, but because the anticipation was Jonathan Brooks would be the guy. And fortunately, he re-tears the ACL, which absolutely sucks for him. It's similar to Tank Dell. It's possible his career will never, ever take off in the NFL, because by the time he gets back, fully back, he'll probably be in the last year of his contract, and they'll have to make a decision about the 5th-year option and all that kind of stuff. Actually, no, he was a second-round pick.
No decision there.
Yeah, you add in Trevor Etienne to try to help out Chuba Hubbard in your running back game, and then you do a little bit of here and there to help bolster that defense. The real questions are going to be, can Tet McMillan step into this offense and provide Bryce Young with a guaranteed downfield threat? And can Nick Skirton and Princely Umamian provide that relief pressure for the defense to try to get the ball back, and at least not for situations where Bryce is having to start from the 20 or 25-yard line because it was a kickoff. Instead, now we're hoping it's a punt. And that can really change Carolina's trajectory, both in this division and in the entirety of the NFC, as Bryce Young continues to develop. A team that thought they had the quarterback, which you and I were like, no, this dude's terrible, was New Orleans. And Derek Carr has been there for a couple of years now. Let's not forget how on top of the world the Saints were after 2 to 3 weeks in the beginning of last year. And you and I were both like, this is not going to last. We have seen Derek Carr, and Derek Carr flamed out as usual. But Derek Carr puts the Saints in a kind of a tricky position, because on the one hand, you're tied to him with a fairly large contract. But on top of that, he has an injury to his shoulder. I don't remember if it's his throwing shoulder or not, but either way, it's an issue when it's going to affect his mechanics when he's throwing. So you can see why they're like, okay, we really need to protect this quarterback, whether he plays at the start of the season or comes back later. But we need to protect him. We're going to get Kelvin Banks Jr. with the 9th pick. And Kelvin Banks Jr., one of the higher graded left tackles for this draft. And I think it's Membu who can switch back and forth. But Kelvin Banks Jr. provides depth, provides anchor. They lost Ramczyk, so it's not even depth. It's you're going to be starting, sir. You're going to be in there on day one trying to make sure that you are the person protecting the quarterback. But the question is, who is going to be the quarterback? Because you don't know whether or not Derek Carr is going to be there to be able to throw the ball. So they go, okay, well, let's spend a 2nd-round pick on Tyler Shaw. Now, the question here, I don't know enough about this guy. I know that he is, I think, like older than Bo Nix, which is a wild statement to say. Not that Bo
Yeah.
is really that old, but like
He's the
Bo is
last player to be born in the 1900s to be drafted in the NFL draft.
oh,
So
he's
this is the
old,
last
old.
time.
He's like 26.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah. He's
So
from '99. So
my question here is, I like, and you can break this down a bit further down the road, but like, if you're gonna need a quarterback, wouldn't you just take like the Dylan Gabriels of the world at that point? Like
yeah,
at round 2? Like if you're gonna pick one round 2, Dylan Gabriel probably is better than Tyler Shaw, just from a pure experience standpoint. He has run Oregon's offense and he was in the CFP. Like he's got a bit more experience than the Tyler Shelfs of the world. But okay, all right. You're maybe you're sending a message to Derek Carr where it's like, we're just drafting somebody to play in case you can't make it back. We are not drafting your replacement, sir. I don't know, but like you really should be drafting Derek Carr's replacement at this point. The rest of the draft kind of feels like just filling team needs. It doesn't really feel like there's anybody that really stands out. The Devin Neal pickup I do like simply because Alvin Kamara, there's only so much more that Alvin Kamara can play the game. And Alvin Kamara has played the game at a very high level for such a long period of time that Father Time, as undefeated as Father Time is coming to call and say, hey, buddy, it's time. It's going to be time soon. So having Devin Neal there in a backfield where he really only has to compete with Andre Miller, and that's really not that much competition for him, it's good for them because they know they can get him an RB2. It's good for Devin Neal because he knows he's probably going to be RB1 sooner rather than later. And it gives him the opportunity to learn behind one of, if not the most dynamic running back in the league. Like you can make an argument that it's Saquon Barkley. You can make an argument that it is Derrick Henry. Those are a little bit more bruiser types, but Saquon has that incredible agility. I never seen Alvin Kamara do a reverse hurdle, but at the same time, Alvin Kamara's agility has been there year in and year out, despite the age. And so having someone like him to be able to teach Devin Neal, even if Devin Neal isn't as agile as Alvin Kamara, which, I mean, Alvin Kamara is probably a 1 of 1 or 1 of 2 or 3 in history when it comes to NFL history. But having somebody like him to be able to teach Devin Neal, it's great for Devin Neal. So from that perspective, I like that pick. Moving to the Buccaneers. This is one of the most intriguing drafts you
I'm
could
so confused
ever
by
say.
it.
You have Emeka Egbuka, who you and I mocked to Dallas.
Yeah.
But on the night of the draft, I was thinking about it, and I was like, who would – I think I even said this during our mock draft. But who Emeka Egbuka would fit amazingly with? The Arizona Cardinals. How amazing would it be for Kyler Murray to go, I have 2 Ohio State wide receivers who played with each other and know how to play with each other and can talk to this offensive coordinator about what the timing situation needs to be to get the ball into Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands. And you already know that Egbuka is a humble guy who does not give a shit if the ball is coming his way or not. He's like, are we winning? It's like the meme of the dad walking into the room. It's like, are you winning, son? Like that's what Egbuka cares about. And it would have been great to pair up with Marvin Harrison. However, the Buccaneers said one man's Passover. When somebody else passed over, that's our treasure. And you know what? It does make sense. I will say, above anything else, the first pick that they made makes absolute sense to me. Because Mike Evans, death taxes and 1,000 yards, but NFL career death, it's around the corner. Whether he starts to slow down more, whether he picks up more injuries, it's coming. And maybe he tries to break the Jerry Rice record and then calls it a day. He's already won his Super Bowl ring. Like, what really is there left for you to do? Maybe it's just breaking the Jerry Rice record, and then just put me in the Hall of Fame. Give me 5 years, put me in. Maybe that's the situation. Godwin, they re-signed him, but Godwin's injury could be a little nagging, but also Godwin's also getting up there in age. They drafted Jalen McMillan. McMillan looked really good in spots, but he didn't look like a bona fide wide receiver 1 or 2. He looked like a guy who fits more as the 3 in an offense. bigger and better guys that are more dominant and being the 1 and the 2. And that's so it just looks on paper like this is a great pickup for the Buccaneers. The problem is everybody after that. You add 2 cornerbacks, you add an outside linebacker, you add a defensive end. Randomly in the 7th round, you add Tez Johnson. Why, I'm not 100% sure. But you add these players, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, nobody stands out to me. I did read a bit about Jacob Parrish before the draft, mainly because I thought maybe Denver could add him as cornerback depth because, like I said before with Riley Moss and all that kind of situation, I was going to take Jahdae Barron. But I was like, maybe 3rd round, 4th round, if he's there, Parrish could work. But none of these names are really huge defensive names. And the problem was that the Buccaneers defense became a liability down the road. And this was a situation where Baker Mayfield is, not hope and a prayer, but like Baker Mayfield is willing this team to win between Bucky Irving and working with what he's got with Mike Evans and Trey Palmer and McMillan and Kate Otten, where it was like, I need some help from the defense. To me, Igbuka is an amazingly smart choice if you already had the defense set up. If Igbuka had fallen to the 2nd round and you had taken the cornerback that – because actually they picked at 19, so they could have had Jahdae Barron because Denver picked at 20. Mm-hmm. But let's say for argument's sake you didn't want Jahdae Barron. Maxwell Hairston was available. One of the Buffalo Bills ended up taking. If that had happened and Igbuka had fallen into the 2nd round, maybe you do a little trade up ski, like do a little work a little magic, then Igbuka makes even more sense. But not addressing the major team need, that felt a little weird to me. But how do you feel total about the NFC South's draft and where you see these teams?
Yeah, I think the Falcons, they were like, wait, Jalen Walker's available? Because Jalen Walker could have gone in. You could have gone top 10. So, like, him kind of just having a weird slide just because of what teams were drafting worked out for the Falcons' favor because they got a guy that they thought was out of the question. And then I like the aggressiveness. They say, screw it, dude. Like, they probably looked at their draft board. They're like, we're not going to find anyone better than James Pierce Jr. in the 2nd round. And they're looking at it like this. We have the keys. We have the pieces on offense. Like they have all the pieces on offense. Offensive line's a little shaky, but you have your wide receiver 1. You found your wide receiver 2 and 3. Darnell Mooney had a good year. Raymond McLeod showed up for you. You got the running back tandem and Algier and Bijan. You don't really need to draft anything offensively. The defense is the issue. And you couldn't get after the quarterback. You solved the issue getting Jalen Walker. Screw it. Who are we going to find better than James Pierce Jr.? This guy was a top 5 pick. They could have, like, I'm being that serious. If Jalen Walker wasn't there at 15, we probably would be talking about, wow, the Falcons, we can't believe they grabbed James Pierce Jr. at 15. That's the conversation we literally could have been having right now because I think they would have taken him. And so they said, screw it. We'll give our pick next year. We think we can contend. This division is much more wide open than people want to give it credit to because people are going to just crown the Buccaneers and not look at us. But now we have 2 guys that can get after the quarterback, and that's very, very important. You have 2 guys that can help out in the back end of that secondary because that was one of their issues too. If they couldn't get after the quarterback besides Terrell and Bates, they had issues. We all know that famous meme play where the Falcons corners look or safeties looking around for the ball, and then Jefferson just catches it, and then the guy like, oh my God, just Jefferson just caught. Like that right there. That like I feel bad for the kid and stuff, but man, that right there is just like, okay, this guy, you're not on an NFL roster next year. Maybe he is. Maybe he's still on the roster, but they needed some help on defense, and I just love that they decided to just focus heavy, getting guys, and I really do like their 2 first-round picks. I think these are guys, especially like pass rushers, are like what, the 2nd highest paid position maybe in the NFL. You get 2 guys that hopefully can be double-digit sacks. They also have a guy that's coming off from injury from their last draft class. So they're just building a good pass rush room, full of young, athletic freaks that can get after the quarterback. The Panthers, very solid draft. T-Mac makes a lot of sense. Apparently Bryce Young really wanted him. And, they have some connections, both being California kids, very familiar with each other, played against each other a lot. But also, I mentioned this why, and I think it was in our mock draft, why T-Mac made sense for the Panthers was that T-Mac has been playing with a kid named Noah Fafita since he was in middle school. Noah Fafita is the same measurables as Bryce Young, same comparison to Bryce Young. He just doesn't have the intelligence or certain physical traits that Bryce Young has. Because even though Bryce Young is small, Bryce Young is very elusive. He's very smart, very, very good leader. T-Mac is used to playing with these smaller quarterbacks. So pairing him up with a quarterback where he knows that he has to catch balls at a certain different angle because of a smaller quarterback release, I think makes all the sense in the world. And I think it will be a good number one wide receiver for them because we all love Leggett because we can't understand what he's saying. He's talking about eating raccoons and he's a character. He's the funniest guy in the NFL just because of who he is. Didn't really show that number one wide receiver capabilities. There was like that, what was that game against the Eagles? He dropped like what should have been like an easy touchdown and even like he didn't even try to pretend that he caught it. You know how like sometimes the receivers know it's a drop, but they do that like, oh, I caught it. He was like, oh man, I just dropped it and stuff. And it was like, bro, you at least pretend that you caught it. Like you have to do that at least. Like he didn't do that. Getting ETN, I like getting Scorton and Umanura. Like the one thing when Derek Brown went out, you saw that the Panthers just had nothing else on that D line or nothing else in the pass rush department. Like Clowney was like older, like you could see that he lost a step. So getting two guys like Scorton, not really like a sacker, but he can stop the run. Umanura, big guy that can get at the quarterback. Really, really like those picks. I think you misspelled Jimmy Horn's name. I think you call him Jimmy Jorn. But getting J.C. Horn's cousin, younger brother, want to say that they're related. They have to be related because J.C. Horn is related to Jimmy Horn, the great NFL wide receiver. So getting Jimmy Horn Jr., I like that pickup too because, family ties and everything. But yeah, I think the Panthers are good. They got a lot of guys that were like have name value and can actually provide really good options for them as they keep improving that roster because they just need more talent. That's the issue with the Panthers. The Saints, all right. Let me just talk about the other guys before we get to Mr. Shuck. Kelvin Mix Jr., slam dunk pick. They need a talent on that offensive line. So getting a franchise left tackle, I don't care what anyone says. Having a franchise left tackle just makes, like, I don't care where you're at, like, if you have a quarterback, if you don't have a quarterback. When you get a franchise left tackle and it falls to your lap, you got to take him. And like, I know a lot of people said they could have done something else at 9. Kelvin Mix Jr. just fell to your lap. He could have gone anywhere in the top 6. He fell to your lap. Take him. Get a franchise left tackle. You're not going to question it. That is if he performs as one. But I think he will. I think he's really good. And then Devin Neal, obviously, if you play college football 25, you knew how much of a beast he was when that game first launched. But I do like that pickup a lot. I think with Neal, what happened was Kansas just had a disappointing season compared to what they were supposed to be. And it's kind of like the same thing with Ollie Gordon, where it's just like the disappointment of their team kind of hurt their stock as a whole, as a player, because they didn't really do enough as players to help turn that team around, especially at an expendable position.
I feel as though that also happened, and we're going to get there, but I feel as though that also happened with Luther Burden.
Yeah. So, like, being at an expendable position like running back, it hurts. But I think Neal, that was a good pickup. Now, Tyler Shuck, guy's been in college for 7 years, had a COVID year. I can't name you all the teams he was on. I know he started out at Oregon as a good 4-star quarterback prospect. People were very high on him. That didn't work out, and then he kind of bounced around, and then he found his home at Louisville. Shuck is not horrible at all. Like, I don't think it was a horrible pick. It's just more with Tyler Shuck. I think Kellen Moore likes that Tyler Shuck has a lot of different college experience, a lot of different college playbooks. Like it's different because Bo Nix went to similar playbooks. Like he went from Auburn spread scheme to Oregon spread scheme. So it was like he was familiar with the spread scheme. Like it was like something that he went through. Shuck went all over the place, played with a bunch of different playbooks. He does have good intangibles. I don't think he's a starter in the NFL right now. Like maybe in a couple of years he could prove me wrong. More of a good backup, but I think Kellen Moore, the way he looks at it is that he'll have a guy with good size, good arm, someone that has good experience. Now, not the winning experience, but he has better physicals than like a Dylan Gabriel, and he has a better decision-making process at arm than a Jalen Milroe, and he has a better attitude than a Shador Sanders. Because Tyler Shuck, didn't always get the fairest shake at every school. At Oregon, he got benched, and a lot of other kids would have spiraled out after that. You go to a top program like Oregon, you get benched. Then you transfer, and then you transfer to a school on a lesser level than Oregon, and then I watch a college football video, be like, whatever happened to Tyler Shuck and stuff like that. And then I'm watching that video that's 18 minutes long, like whatever happened to this guy. So the thing with Tyler Shuck, he's very persistent. He played a lot of years of college football. It's not a horrible pick. It's just more of one of those where it's just like, I don't think there was a lot of teams that were like looking at Tyler Shuck as like the next quarterback. That's the thing. I feel like you could have drafted someone else in this position. And correct me if I'm wrong, the Saints traded up for this. Like they traded up to get Tyler Shuck. It wasn't like unless like they heard something. I don't see why you traded up to get Shuck. Like that was the only thing. But like I said, I can't name you all the schools, but I can tell you I've seen a lot on him. He has improved since his time in Louisville. But he's played a lot of different play styles, a lot of different playbooks. Something Kellen Moore can work with, a quarterback that's very versatile in that respect. Buccaneers, I don't know what they were doing. Ibuka makes sense. Everything else, like they double dipped on corner, kind of similar to like their Super Bowl draft where they double dipped on corner and that worked out for them. They didn't feel like an off-ball linebacker need, which I think is a huge need for them that people aren't talking about. Like Levante David isn't getting any younger, and they don't really have like another off-ball linebacker. Like they have a bunch of edge guys that were like just feel developmental, like they've just been waiting for Joe Tryon-Shankon to like wake up and actually be good. So I didn't like their draft, honestly. Like I really didn't like anything that the Buccaneers did besides Ibuka. Like the Tez Johnson pick, it's just like now that receiver room's already crowded. Now you're just like crowding it even more, and it's like I don't see where you look at Tez Johnson. Are you looking at him as like a returner for you guys? Like I don't know, like. Just a weird draft for the Buccaneers. Not to shit on them. It's just a weird draft. It's like one of those where it's just like yeah, you got players, but like how much of these guys are actually going to make an impact for you? Like, which I feel like you're in the window where you guys can. Yeah, you guys are in the window. You guys can actually be a threat in the Super Bowl. Like you got to remember, the Buccaneers, like they beat the Eagles last year. They are a team that competed with the Detroit Lions. Like. They're a team that can scare people. They just had a weird game where the defense let them down against the Commanders. I just feel the Buccaneers is just one of those where it's like you should have looked for players that can help you win now. But I feel like they got a lot of guys where it's just like I don't know if they're actually like day one starters for them and stuff. And I haven't looked at the Buccaneers full depth chart, so I don't know who else they have at secondary. But it's just like like. I don't know, not a fan of a team that has like a championship window, which is not crazy to say for the Buccaneers. They do have a championship window with them. It's just rather disappointing. But I like the Ibuka pick.
Let me pull up who they signed in free agency.
Yeah, because like I think the Buccaneers are a good sleeper team if you want to place a crazy like they'll make the Super Bowl bet. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, the Buccaneers, especially the way if Baker keeps playing how he's playing, there's a chance that they can sneak in there.
So they re-signed a whole bunch of their own players, but the people that they brought in was Hassan Reddick, Kendall Vildor, Anthony Walker. And the players that they lost, KJ Britt, a couple guys in the offensive line, a outside linebacker who did a 1-year contract with Cleveland, and a cornerback, Tavierre Thomas. So, like, you could make an argument with Hassan Reddick that they are better from that defensive standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The question, I think, is going to be, like, was that enough? And is this – because, like, to your point, this feels much more like a 26 draft in the sense of we're drafting now to let these players develop, or in the case of like Ibuka, we don't think that certain people are going to be there in 26 and we're drafting now versus step in. So maybe there's an argument that we could make for the Buccaneers, because I agree with you that it does come across as a weird draft. Well, let's try to like do a little bit of contextualizing it. You could make an argument that this draft is less about winning specifically now, like trying to really compete in 25, and more about extending the window, right? Because like you want as many bites of the apple as you can get. So like maybe that's the perspective to try to look at it, and then certain things may make a little bit more sense. But I agree with you completely. On paper, looking at it like right now, this is like it does feel like a weird draft. And realistically, do I think that Carolina can challenge the Buccaneers for the division? Not this year. So you got to look at Atlanta. And Atlanta is really the team that has the ability to challenge you. And did Atlanta do enough to generate enough pressure that they can force? Because remember, those Buccaneers Atlanta games last year, those were just dirty.
Must-see TV.
Back and forth, back and forth. So, like, did you do enough to be able to stop Atlanta? And Atlanta is going, well, hey, one of the reasons why we lost was not being able to generate pressure 2 times a year against Baker Mayfield. Let's get Jalen Walker and James Pierce. So this will be an interesting thing to track, these two teams and how uniquely tied together they are because of the division that they're in. But let's move to a division where everybody is super tied together. They get, particularly 2 of the teams, get a boatload of primetime games. And of course, we are talking about the NFC East. And you start off with the Giants, who make a wonderful pick at number 3 overall, getting Abdul Carter, one of the highest rated pass rush experts that we have seen in some time. And then you have the Giants trading back into the first, not giving up too much to do it, and getting Jackson Dart at pick 25. And, Jackson Dart joining I don't want to say crowded, but a quarterback room of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. It's interesting because you get to learn from 2 quarterbacks who are not gun shy. Like, you can make an argument that Russell Wilson is getting more gun shy as he gets older, for sure. But they're really not, generally speaking, gun shy. And Jameis Winston's going to be like, hey, man, God will tell you where the ball needs to go. And Jackson Dart will be like, I believe you, man. I believe we're going to eat these dubs together. So it's a great place for Jackson Dart to learn. There's going to definitely be some mechanics issues that Russell Wilson, you want to not pick up from Russell Wilson. But, that's on Daboll to be able to figure out how best to coach up Jackson Dart. Then throughout the rest of this draft, it really does address a lot of team needs. You have pieces on defense getting added in there. You try to help out that offensive line, but you can make an argument that there are 2 really great ways to help out an offensive line or an offense in general. The first is a better defense, which they are definitely getting with Abdul Carter, and a better run game. Now, Tyrone Tracy did a bang-up job of coming onto the scene and kind of stealing the job from Devin Singletary and running with it. But you know what's great? What's better than having Tyrone Tracy? Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo, because it adds a lot of options to your running back room and what you want to do. Both of them are really good pass-catching backs. And this is an NFL offense in 2025 where you need to have pass-catching backs. And having both of them allows every single play, no matter which one is in, the defense will not know whether it is run or pass. And that is something that is really good. And so it felt as though, like, on its face, you would think, well, you could have gone O-line again, like in round 4. But that ability to have those safety valves in the form of Tyrone Tracy and Scatterbo, who can both do home run hits of 20 yards or more with a catch out of the backfield, that in and of itself is release pressure on the offensive line. So I, generally speaking, liked the Giants draft. It definitely is a build for the future draft. Whether or not Jackson Dart pans out is really the question, because if he doesn't, and really they only have like a year to figure this out, you're going to have a new head coach, You're going to have a new GM, and none of those players are going to be tied to that front office. And they may be more than willing to re-roll the dice on another quarterback in 26 or 27, depending on when things are going to happen. But Cam Scatterbo as a pick, super dynamic running back. We have Arizona State Sun Devils fan Steve in the comments saying Scatterbo, Giants got a stud that loves to play the game. Yeah, it is really great for them. I do love the pickup for them as the ability to just take that pressure off the offensive line. But what's interesting to me is what happened in Dallas, because you have a situation where Dallas was heavily mocked to pick up a running back and pick up a running back early, but they don't do that. They wait until round 5 to pick up their first running back of the draft in Jaden Blue. They get a 7th-round running back, Phil Maffa, out of Clemson. Both of these guys are capable. There's nothing really that is super negative about them. I mean, Phil Maffa, there's a reason why he's a 7th-round running back. But at the same time, it is intriguing that why Dallas waited so long. Is the question that these guys are just that good and the rest of the league kind of whiffed on it? Or is it the perspective that Jerry Jones is finally learning his lesson and is not overdrafting running backs and then overpaying running backs when he doesn't need to? We shall see. But this is a backfield where either of these guys could take the starting running back role. Now, I've seen some arguments that it's going to be more Phil Maffa than Jaden Blue who takes the running back role, because Jaden Blue is a bit more of a pass-catching back. But the point is that either of these guys has a very easy pathway to becoming RB1 for the Dallas Cowboys, because their only competition is Miles Sanders, who has not been good since the 1 year in Philadelphia, or Javonte Williams, who, as much as I love the guy, is terrible now from the injury after his time with the Denver Broncos. So, you had one of the super dynamic running backs in Javonte Williams who looked amazing the first year, and then injuries just pile up. And when you're a running back, it's hard to bounce back from those things. Shout out to Jonathan Brooks. Hope you're able to pull it off, sir. But the rest of this draft for the Dallas Cowboys is very similar to a lot of other drafts, and that it's kind of just filling team needs. You need to keep rebuilding this offensive line. We are very many years removed from the offensive line that propelled Zeke Elliott to being a superstar running back. And the way you can try to get back on track with that is by adding a guard like Tyler Booker. And I will let you, sir, talk more about Tyler Booker and his time in Alabama. But you add in some pieces on defense to try to help relieve some pressure from the Micah Parsons of the world, from the why am I forget? Because it's not Stephon Diggs, it's Travion or Trevon Diggs.
Travion Diggs, yeah. Also a Bama player, Roll Tide.
But his brother. And so you're able to just kind of get closer to where you need it to be. You're still going to be hampered by the limitations that Dak Prescott has, but I personally thought it was pretty interesting. This is another team that absolutely needed wide receiver help. You and I mocked Ibuka to the Cowboys for a reason, because there has to be somebody that helps CeeDee Lamb get some kind of pressure taken off. And they did not do anything to really help that. Now, you could make an argument that with a better running back, that you're able to do that. But if that was the case, you didn't need to pay that much money to Rico Dowdle to keep him. I don't imagine you would have needed to, but he went to the Panthers. So, okay, we'll see what happens there. But this is a situation for Dallas where I'm like, this is a very important draft, because we talk about windows, right? Especially just recently with the Buccaneers. But from a window perspective, Dallas's window is shrinking, and they are getting closer and closer to needing a full teardown rebuild. And I don't know if this draft is really going to be something that helps extend that window, particularly in a very competitive division. It wasn't this competitive last year, but man, oh man, all it takes is one quarterback. And now you turn to the Washington Commanders. And similarly to how we were talking with the Patriots, where I was saying the most important draft is not the draft where you get the quarterback, it's the draft after you get the quarterback. Washington finds itself in a very similar position, the same way that Denver did, the same way that New England did. And this is an intriguing draft. You have them adding Josh Connerly, the tackle from Oregon, They needed to help that offensive line. That was one of the issues. It's not a situation where like you are comfortable if you're Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. You are comfortable with the idea of Jaden Daniels moving out of the pocket. You are very comfortable with him taking off and running because you know what he can do. On the flip side, though, you don't want him to be doing that. Like, you don't want that to be happening as much as it was happening last year. You want him to be able to be in the pocket, throwing and being protected. Now, on the one hand, you are still going to come up with those designed runs and those kind of plays where it looks like a bootleg and then all of a sudden he's taken off. Absolutely. But you need to be able to keep him in the pocket a little bit more to make sure that he's not taking some ridiculous, not just season ending, but career potentially ending hit. The amount of money that you're investing in him is huge. So you get Josh Connerly, you need a defense, which you and I talked about how sneaky good the Commanders' defense was.
Yeah,
and they've added pieces in free agency, but it's still something that needs a lot of work. I thought it was pretty intriguing that they, you got Terry McLaurin, you have Luke McCaffrey on his rookie contract, but you don't really add too many pieces in free agency. Like they added Michael Gallup. They traded for Deebo Samuel, but you got to know that Deebo is closer to the way out than the way in. And so picking up Jalen Lane in the 4th round, that's why I said it's intriguing, because I don't know exactly how he's going to fully fit in. He is a little bit more of a streaker from what I understood. Like he's more of a downfield threat.
De'Ami Brown, he left, right? He's now on a different team. De'Ami Brown.
I think so. I think Noah Brown re-signed, but De'Ami.
I want to say, I know Noah Brown re-signed, but I think this guy will be the De'Ami Brown replacement because honestly, De'Ami Brown definitely left the team. Maybe he went to the Patriots. I don't know. Sometimes these like role player wide receivers, I don't know where they end up.
So they brought in Michael Gallup, Lawrence Kager, Mike Straken. So 2 names that aren't really meaning anything, and Michael Gallup. And then they drafted Jalen Lane, and they're like, okay, we're going to pair this up with Deebo Samuel, with Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey takes another step forward. Really what they need to be doing is getting Ben Sinnott more involved.
Yeah, get that kid involved.
You got Zach Ertz, and you re-sign him, and there's nothing wrong with that because Zach Ertz played great for them. But
he was like him and Wagner were like the old man MVPs of last year, where it's like the league ripped them off. They're saying now they're done, and they didn't write back because both those two. Like I had Ertz in fantasy, and my friends were clowning on me, and then Ertz went off, and I was like, "Hey man, Ertz, my guy."
But
I pissed off Zach Ertz at one time. At a gym.
We're gonna see like what happens with this draft, because this is you got to imagine you're continually trying to amass draft picks. That's why they don't have rounds 3 and rounds 5. But you have to be targeted because it is a window before you have to start paying Jaden Daniels. So how you balance those two, that's what I find interesting with this draft. And I want to see, like, from a 2-year proposition, 3-year proposition, when we look back at this draft, what we will say was the smart decisions that Washington made. But if there's one team in this division that consistently makes smart decisions when it comes to the draft, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. And I am not surprised to see at least one Georgia defensive player on this draft. But they start off by taking Jihad Campbell in the 1st round, and the rest of this is just defense. It's defense. Now you can make it's an easy argument to make. Why do you need to draft somebody when you have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts? It's like, I get it. And the luxury of having those players on offense allows you to do these sorts of things on defense. It's similar to what the Falcons did. They just, were very specific. They were like defensive end, safety. The Eagles spread it out a little bit more. They were like, all right, we'll take a linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, all over the place. But these are the kinds of picks, and I forgot to get the pick numbers there, like when they were picked exactly. But similarly to the Ravens, those bird teams, man, it's just luxury picks. It's just luxury picks. But tell me more. Tell me more about Jihad Campbell, about Tyler Booker, and about how you like the draft for the NFC East.
Yeah, first off, the Giants. I think they did a good job because they got 2 of the most expensive positions on cheap contracts. I mean, I know they traded and paid big money for Brian Burns. They still have sexy Dexter Lawrence. They didn't have anyone else on that D line that really stepped up. Thibodeau hasn't kind of been a disappointment. Like, let's just be honest, he's kind of been a disappointment for them for being a high first round pick. Carter, I don't think will be a disappointment. He was my favorite player in this draft. He's absolute mortar. People say that he gave up on plays. I don't know. Like, maybe when the Penn State was getting blown out, he gave up. But when Penn State was in the game, this guy was absolutely a wrecking machine for them. And Jackson Dart, I'm a little bit more higher on Dart than most people. I don't think he's a long-term starter, but if he can develop, like these picks make me believe that's like Dable's job is safe more than we want. Like Shane and Dable's job is safer than we expect. Like they truly believe in them, because I don't understand why you would draft a rookie. Like, if you're the ownership, you would give up draft capital. Granted, they didn't give up a lot, but to draft a quarterback and get him on a fifth-year option deal if you didn't believe that this guy could be a starter down the line. So I feel like this draft was, we need talent, we're getting talent, and then by Dart's second year, we can fill out the rest because we will still have cap space, we will still have these players. Like, maybe this is a good 7-9 season for the Giants. Like that pickup of Scatterbo, him and Tyrone Tracy, because like people forget, Tyrone Tracy was a wide receiver in college, and he converted to running back. So not a pure running back, but you add a guy like Scatterbo who is a pure running back, very similar to what Devin Singletary brings, except without all the tread on those tires. It's a good pickup. I do like a lot of the things that the Giants did. Like, they obviously are setting themselves up to be what Dable wants in a team, running a lot of play action, wide receiver screens. They obviously have the athletes at those positions and stuff. So really do like those pickups there. Dallas, on the other hand, so not in love with their full draft, but I was more high on the Tyler Booker pick than a lot of other people. I understand wanting a wide receiver, but a guy like Tyler Booker, this is like an all-pro level guard right here. Guy used to play tackle at Alabama, left tackle for us, kicked into guard because we picked up Caden Proctor. Proctor is a great left tackle, so Booker kicked into guard. Booker's a versatile, athletic freak road monster. And now they have Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, and then another Tyler on their offensive line. So there's just three guys named Tyler that are going to play good. And I think when you mentioned it earlier about, Jerry Jones looked at the years that he was successful with the running backs, it was because they had that great offensive line that was arguably one of the best we've seen in the modern era for the NFL. And I think Jerry Jones is just trying to recreate that magic a bit with Tyler Booker, with Tyler Smith, with the other Tyler that they have that I can't remember the last name of that guy. So I do like this pickup of Tyler Booker. I like their pickup of Izamanaku from Boston College. I think we also had him going in the first round. I think he's a good edge rusher. He's going to pair up well with Micah Parsons, and he's also, like Micah Parsons, very versatile, very Swiss Army knife. So I do like that. The rest of the draft, I just felt they were just kind of picking talented players, but I don't see these players making year one impacts for them, which I feel like the Dallas Cowboys need more than anything. Players that you draft and they can be year one impact players for you instead of waiting to see if they can develop. Washington, I felt they drafted a lot of needs that they needed to fill. Connerly, very familiar with Kingsbury's offense playing at Oregon, so he's going to know how to do all those boots that their tackles have to do and all those RPO type of stuff. So that made sense to draft Connerly here. I didn't have him rated high as a tackle, but in terms of a scheme fit, he does fit with what you want to do. Trey Amos, that's a Dan Quinn type corner if I've ever seen one. Besides, the trade for not Norman, who did they trade for from the Saints? Lattimore. Lattimore, obviously, as I talked about with Pittman earlier, he looked labored. He did not look like the same top end corner that we know that he can be at his position. So I think Lattimore comes back healthy, and then you pair him up with Trey Amos. That's a good pick. Jalen, obviously, the De'Ami Brown replacement. You want to have that one streaker where Jaden Daniels can throw a deep ball to. And then the rest of the guys, I just feel like are good, like special team players, guys that can maybe come in and make an impact on defense, but also fill the needs of like, hey, Eckler's older, Wagner's older. Maybe they can learn something from these guys. Maybe they're guys that start for us year 2, year 3 type of players, or end up being situational role players. So I like them. But the Eagles, another A+ draft from them. Getting a guy like Jahad Campbell, another guy kind of like Hugh Robinson that kind of got fucked up when Alabama changed their defensive scheme and stuff. So he played more off-ball linebacker. But for what the Eagles really want from him is that he's going to be a terrific edge rusher for them. They lost some edge rushers. They lost Sweat. They lost another guy that also played edge for them. He's going to go right in there and fit that role. And then also he can play off-ball linebacker if you need to. The safety from Texas, I can't really see his name right now, but Andrew is really, really good. And so that's another guy that adds to their secondary. Kind of also fills a hole because they probably won't be able to pay their safeties all the money. So he can come in and be the Rodrigo Blankenship replacement. Really love to pick up a Smile Mondon. I think Mondon just had like a really, really off year at Georgia last year. Not his best year, but I think he just had a little bit of an off year compared to what he is. But once again, just getting a talented player. Like I just look at the Eagles draft and I just see feeling like, because they understand they won because their offense was good, but also because that defense had a lot of firepower on it too. They have to fill up a lot of holes on that defense. You can't pay everyone in the NFL. It's going to come up to the point where, Jalen Walker's contract is coming up, and then the other edge rusher that they drafted from Georgia, I can't remember his name. He's really, really fast and stuff. He had a good playoffs. He's coming up also too with the contract and stuff. Like, you can't pay all these players. You got to find the replacements. And I feel they found guys that can be good backups, maybe even be starters for them if needed, but can replace when they have to make the tough decisions of, all right, do we have to pay a Quinion Mitchell? Do we have to pay a Cooper DeJean? Do we have to pay these players all this money? No, like we drafted well enough. We saw these players develop well. Yeah, I think they did good, and especially the offensive tackles. Mostly on the right tackle side of things, because Lane Johnson, he's getting older. Like it's about almost time for him to, retire and call it a great career, a Hall of Fame career for him. So getting 2 tackles that you hope could develop or just end up being swing tackles for you, or maybe be swing guards for you, I don't see the issue with that whatsoever. I think they absolutely killed it. They got guys that fill in needs, but also could eventually be starters. And I can't say that. Like, look, the Eagles have just been hitting, like, their worst draft pick has been Jalen Reagor out of all their drafts, and everything else has been hit. I can't really knock what the Eagles have done. I think the Eagles have done really well for themselves, and they've set up a great roster where they can just keep doing this, where they can just, like I won't be surprised if next year's draft they go heavy on offense, knowing that, like, okay, we build up all the defensive players. Let's go draft our A.J. Brown replacement, our Saquon replacement, our
don't forget they
Goddard replacement.
Don't forget, next year should be Jeremiah Love and Nick Singleton.
Yeah.
So you've got some people there for Saquon, even though they just extended him. You never know when not, God forbid, I don't want anything to happen to the guy, but something happens, some kind of injury, father time, whatever the case is. The Eagles have been, one thing that is really great about the Eagles is the idea of adding depth before you need the depth and letting these guys develop. So getting Nick Singleton or Jeremiah Love, let's say either one, I don't know too much about it, some of the other running backs, but getting one of those guys in 26 before you need the person, even though you just extended Saquon, that is something that I would not put past the Eagles whatsoever. But moving from the NFC East to the NFC West, let's talk about this. You've got the Niners. The Niners are in such a weird position, man, because they should have been making Super Bowls. They should have been winning Super Bowls. But they keep running into those pesky Chiefs, and then they keep running into salary cap issues, and they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. And so they're like, all right, well, we gotta part ways with Debo. We'll trade him. We gotta figure out Ayuk's. We figured out Ayuk's contract. We figured out I think Jennings is still. They did a little extension on Jennings. They just finished the extension with George Kittle, but that Brock Purdy money, it's looming, and so they're like, all right, what do we got to do to try to? If you want to say that picking at pick 11 was an anomaly because of the injuries that happened last year to Ayuk, to Kittle was banged up, to a lot of parts of that offensive line. What are we going to do to try to fix this? Because we don't anticipate being at pick 11 this time next year. Okay, cool. Michael Williams, welcome. Welcome to the team. Adding some great pass rush when you've got being able to pair him up with Nick Bosa, that's awesome. Then you add in a defensive tackle from Texas, also really good. You can see throughout this, it's defense, 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 defense. And then they do a quick switch to offense. And maybe you don't need that many people because the hope is that Christian McCaffrey comes back and is Christian McCaffrey again, right? And yeah, you lose Jordan Mason, you send him to the Vikings, but it's a situation where it's like, hey, we've had really great results with finding running back talent in later rounds. We picked up Isaac Guerrero last year. Now they've added Jordan James from Oregon, who is a good running back. Like this was a CFP team. And you adding in another wide receiver from Ole Miss that could potentially be not the replacement for Debo, because Debo, especially when he was younger, provided a certain unique skill set. But it's more along the lines of we need targets. And like you have to have people to throw to. There's nothing wrong with a fourth round receiver. That's the other thing that I thought was interesting is you don't see like fifth rounds and fifth round, sixth round picks here. And then finally in the seventh, they add a little bit more depth. I thought it was a pretty good draft for where they were from a team perspective and where they were from a draft pick perspective. I think they did a good job of getting a bunch of people under contract that are going to be cheap so that when you pay Brock Purdy, you're not just ass out and you're trusting your coaching staff to be able to bring these people up to speed and get them to work, get them, working with between Robert Sala's game plan and Kyle Shanahan's game plan. I'm really interested to see Jordan James in this Niners.
Yeah.
It's a situation where, like, if McCaffrey is McCaffrey, then you don't need him. But Jordan James being there just as a guy who can spell McCaffrey between himself and Guerrero, always great to have. You turn to Seattle, and both Geno and Russell Wilson are sitting there scratching their heads, now in Vegas, now in New York. They're like, if they had just taken offensive line in the first round when we were there, we would probably still be there. And we could have probably won some things, but Seattle doing the decision making a little bit late. I do think it's interesting though that not new head coach, but different head coach than Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll's now in Vegas, and the first thing Seattle does is take an offensive lineman in the first. I think it was real. I was like, oh, so maybe it was Pete Carroll who was the problem. But you have Seattle taking a guard in Gray Zabel, a safety. Tight end Arroyo, he does have some injury history, so that's going to be something to pay attention to. Like AJ Barnard looked like he was pretty good, but Noah Fant's still there. Noah Fant has not lit the world on fire from where he was drafted in Denver and then going over to Seattle as part of the Russell Wilson trade. But AJ Barnard, they thought, okay, maybe he'll be the guy. Looks pretty good, but they've added somebody now to the room just to add some depth. But this was something that I thought was interesting to me. This would have been a prime, and you know what? Let me just look real quick, because it was AFC South. So they picked Arroyo at pick 50, AFC South. Where was Higgins and Noel taken? So Higgins was taken 34th, and Noel was taken 79th. So Noel was available at the time. This is what I think is fascinating to me about Seattle. And it's like, okay, if you tell me you want to be a run-first team without telling me you want to be a run-first team. Because this is a situation where if you lose DK Metcalf and you lose Tyler Lockett and all you have is Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm like, you got to be drafting wide receivers.
Hey, man, they have Cooper Kupp too.
Okay, Cooper Kupp, but it's not Cooper Kupp who's Cooper Kupp.
It's still Cooper Kupp, dog.
Okay, part of the appeal of Cooper Kupp was the mind meld that he had with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's not throwing him the ball anymore. It's Sam Darnold. So where is this kid?
Look, if you're a white quarterback, he has a mind meld with you. He had a mind meld with Jared Goff. It's fine.
Hey, you know what? You may be right. And Sam Darnold's just the
Yeah,
next in the long line of white quarterbacks that work out well with Cooper Kupp. We
yeah,
will find out. But they wait until the 5th round to grab Torrey Horton from Colorado State, and the rest of this whole draft just looks. It's interesting from the perspective of like filling holes. But I was looking for like where is going to be this wide receiver, because I'm like, yes, you can sign Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Kupp is not going to be playing for you in like 2 years. So where is going to be your next guy up? And maybe they're looking ahead to the 26th draft, and they're like, there's going to be a wide receiver there that we're going to be targeting. But from a division that was open, there were at one point in time, like on a week-to-week basis, it went Rams in charge of the division, Arizona in charge of the division, Seattle in charge of there was a back and forth fight. You have the ability to be in a dogfight. And the Niners, yes, maybe this is going to be a situation where everybody's healed up from the injuries and they don't get the injury bug like they did last year. But if something happens because their team, because they are all their key players are getting older, that's why this was a really important reload draft for them. You have the ability to compete right now. And I thought that maybe they would have gone a little bit better with those wide receivers. But then I remembered, oh, wait, you've got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And both of those are great receivers, and both of those are great running backs. It screams to me that they're going to be much more of a running back driven team than they have been prior. It definitely takes the pressure off of Sam Darnold. I don't think anybody would argue that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are better than Aaron Jones and whoever else was behind Aaron Jones in Minnesota. So like part of the need for Sam Darnold to throw as much is not going to be there. Now, granted, it's a huge step down from Justin freaking Jefferson and Jordan Addison to Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp. It's going to be that. But if you can take that pressure off with the running back situation, great things for everybody involved. Turning to the Rams had a first-round pick, then they didn't have a first-round pick, and they're like, okay, well, we don't need first-round picks. We're going to take Terrence Ferguson as our first pick, which I thought was really interesting, and it's one of the reasons why I'm very high on Terrence Ferguson, is because if that's the first person that the Rams wanted to get and went and got, that means they believe in Terrence Ferguson. And Tyler Higbee is, I mean, I know he had that crazy injury in the playoff game with Detroit in the 2023 playoffs, but he came back in 24, but like it's not long for Tyler Higbee to really be playing. He's already older as it is. So getting Terrence Ferguson, I think, is really great. It's adding more youth to that offensive skill position group with Puka Nacua. And this is interesting. I like the Jarquez Hunter pickup. A lot of people would have said, like, you already have Kyron Williams, you already have Blake Corum, but Blake Corum really did not show a lot as the RB2 in that offense. And maybe it's just, adjusting to an NFL offense, but the Rams know better than us whether or not Blake Corum was what the issue was. And they said, we only have a certain number of draft picks, and we're going to use one of them on a running back. So that's a little telling. It's also why I have high expectations for Jarquez Hunter to be a good RB2. I'm not expecting to take the job from Kyron Williams, who is just an absolute bowling ball of a running back. But this is a draft that I don't know what it is about this draft, in particular with the Rams, but it's just like I kind of just trust Les Snead and McVay to figure out whatever it is that they wanted to get, because they are very surgical with how they draft, who they draft. So like a part of me is just like it's almost a situation where it's like I don't need to know a lot about these players. I can trust who made the picks. Similar in situation to the Eagles, where it's like I don't need to know that much about a lot of these players. I just know Howie Roseman makes great drafts. So I have to look at it and go, this is filling team needs. But let's turn to Arizona, who was one of the most up and down teams last year. They had a situation where 4th overall, they took Marvin Harrison Jr. and then struggled to get him the ball. Whether it was a timing situation, whether it was not giving him enough targets, even though the targets did increase towards the back half of the season, it was a very intriguing situation as to what the hell was going on with that offense. Now, working out for Arizona was the fact that James Conner refuses to die. He refuses to old. And they're like, maybe we got to get another running back. And they got Trey Benson. And James Conner was like, he's going to be sitting on the bench for a lot. I don't know why you went and got him. But, hey, sooner or later, death taxes and father time will come for James Conner. Hopefully it's not this year because he's a very fun running back to watch. But the other side of it was Trey McBride. And Trey McBride was this amazing move the sticks tight end who could just absorb almost anything that Kyler Murray was sending his way and then just get the ball moving. And between those two guys, they were able to move the offense well enough that a lot of people were like, well, I mean, something's going on with Marv, but at least the Cardinals, like, they are doing something on offense. Now, they had multiple games where they had to settle for field goals, but it worked. It worked in certain respects in the sense that, to what I was just saying earlier, Seattle and Rams and Arizona, it felt like a dogfight with all of these teams trying to vie for control of the division. But as Cardinals fan Steve Salvage is pointing out, the Cardinals were down there at the bottom as well, couldn't pressure the quarterback to save their lives. And so they said, you know what's going to work out if we start getting some defense. And this draft, with the exception of one pick in the 6th round, is 100% defense. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle for Ole Miss. Will Johnson, who falls into the 2nd round because of the injury concerns around his knee. Jordan Birch, who I put a capital U there for. You, sir, may need to be the man as an edge rusher and to get that pressure onto the quarterback. You have Cody Simon from Ohio State. You have Denzel Burke, another cornerback from Ohio State, leading Steve to say OSU, West Arizona Cardinals. This is a team that really needed defensive talent and defensive help. And they brought in Josh Sweat in the offseason. And maybe Josh Sweat isn't 100% Josh Sweat anymore, but it's better than what they had prior. And you need to get help for Budda Baker, because Budda Baker sooner or later is going to be like, hey guys, money's great, but like, I would like to win. And maybe they have to pull the old Myles Garrett and Max Crosby thing and go, well, here's a little more money, sir.
Yeah.
And then, oh, okay, all right, well, it's fine. Or Budda Baker says, guys, I'm going to take my talents elsewhere. And you need to be able to get him some help, because he can't be the only person on this defense that's really trying to help out. Now, they do have other pieces on the defense. This is just going to help get them better and better. But I would love to get your takes on this division, because this was one of the funnest divisions to watch from the dogfight standpoint.
Yeah.
What the question is going to be with these three teams, have they done enough in the off chance that the Niners are back healthy? That's really, to me, the story of the NFC West for 2025.
Yeah, I feel like the 49ers, they did a good job at getting, because like their defense got depleted from free agency. They were definitely missing the fact that when they were good, they had a dominant defensive line with Armstead, Buckner, Bosa, and Kinlaw. He didn't end up being like the defensive tackle that they wanted him to be. So now you pair up Bosa with another dynamic edge rusher, Michael Williams. I like that a lot. Ahead Collins and CJ West. These are big ass defensive tackles that I feel will fill a nice void that they've been missing with the defensive tackle room. Collins is probably going to be starting right away, while I think probably West might just be in when they have like the run stop packages. But good fill of needs. Getting a guy like Nick Marin, who is going to be paired up with one of the best linebackers in the NFL, like in Fred Warner. Like, yeah. I like that pickup a lot. I really do like what the Niners did, because they filled in holes at defense. They got players that can be good depth players for them at defense. But then they didn't neglect the offense, because they do need some youth. They do need something, especially at that receiver position, because just Ayuk coming off an injury. Purcell, he was coming off an injury, but he still played after getting shot and stuff. And then you also needed a backup running back, because we know Shanahan, he loves having at least 2 or 3 running backs that can run the ball. And I love that Jordan Mason pickup, because I think he's going to do really, really good for them. So I do think Jordan James pickup, my bad. Mason was another running back from a long time ago. But the Jordan James pickup, I really, really like. I think they did good at filling out the needs that they needed to do. And they found guys that I feel like can start for them and make a difference. Seattle, they got 2 first rounders and one guy who was a border first rounder on in round 1 and round 2. Zybel, very good. I think they were pissed when Tyler Booker got picked because Tyler Booker would have easily been their pick. So they had to go with like, we don't got Tyler Booker, but we got the consolation in Zabel, and I think Zabel will be easily day one guard for them. Don't know if he has the same potential as Tyler Booker, but he'll fit their needs very well. Ola Minori, very nice pickup in the second round. This guy could have easily been a first round safety for them. I thought he was going to go in the first round. Ends up falling pretty to them in the. I think they trade up actually to get this pick. So they traded up to get him. So like they obviously saw the talent that was there.
Not to interrupt, but we mocked Tyler Booker to Seattle.
Yeah, we did. So sadly, and then Arroyo, injuries concerns, yes, but he's a stud when he plays, and he could have been someone that could have been selected in the first round if a team really wanted a tight end. Love the pick of my dog Milroe. Great prospect quarterback. You don't know what you're going to get out of him, but hey, man, if you can get some stuff to figure out with him, that's a mean athlete. And I watch way too much Mountain West football, which Colorado State and UNLV play at, just because I live in California, and we don't really have Pac-12 after dark anymore because Pac-12 became the Big Ten, the Big 12 / wherever Big 10 football. So I did see some games from those teams, but Mountain West is the same thing. So I love Torrey Horton. I'm surprised he didn't come out last year in the draft. I thought he could have been a good third round prospect last year. Came back one more season at Colorado State. Unfortunately, suffered an injury, so he kind of had a setback, and I feel like that's why he fell. But I really like him as a talented wide receiver. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. And then Ricky White, I think, is one of the 7th round steals. Like he's going to be like one of those guys we're just going to be sick and tired of hearing. He was drafted in the 7th round. We're going to be sick and tired. This kid's talented. I don't know how he lasted to the 7th round. I think he is just a baller. He was a baller for that weird situation. UNLV had a horrible situation last year. The quarterback ended up leaving because he wasn't getting the money that was promised. So he switched between quarterbacks. He was at a prior school before that. I want to say Louisville, and he was really good there too. So Ricky White, this guy's a stud. I like him a lot. He has a lot of weird NCAA records too, Ricky White. So really great pickup. I love that pickup in the 7th round for Seattle. I like the receiver pickups. I think Torrey Horton and Ricky White, they could be very good receivers in the NFL. So very good pickup. And I watch a lot of Mountain West football, so maybe that's a little bit biased. Like besides the SEC, like Mountain West is probably like my second most watched conference. It's just because they're out here. The games come on at like late at night. I need something to fall asleep to, but I don't end up falling asleep because the game is like really good. So yeah, I like those guys' pickups. The Rams, like you said, you just gotta trust what they do at this point. Like they know what they're doing. Ferguson is a great pickup from Oregon, very good athletic tight end. Something that McVay has been kind of conveying is like that tight end. I feel like that's like the one thing that he feels like he's missing, and I feel they felt comfortable trading back because they were going to get whatever tight end fell to them. And sure, Ferguson was definitely a guy that they had on their draft board that they were happy falling to them in the 2nd round. The rest of the players that they got, I feel needs and can actually, start for them. Like most of the Rams, like when the Rams draft people, it's like they end up starting for them somehow, some way. You'll just be like, who is this guy? Oh, he's a rookie from like their. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I really like the Cardinals' value getting 2 first-round talents and Nolan and Will Johnson. Will Johnson, obviously with the knee issues, but I don't know how legit or concerning it is, but if Will Johnson is still Will Johnson, they got themselves an absolute steal. A guy that could have gone top 5 in this draft class, actually a better cornerback prospect than Travis Hunter. So it's like, like he's better than Travis Hunter as a pure corner. So yeah, no, I like Walter Nolan too, just a big old, and he's also going to be, I believe Calais Campbell is back for one more season with the Cardinals. He's going to learn well with one of the greatest defensive tackles playing next to him. So very, very good pickups there. And yeah, I like that they just decided, hey, we got to get better on defense because that defense, it was a liability for them last year. Like Steve mentioned, they didn't get any pressure at the quarterback. And a lot of the guys that they drafted to be edge rushers, because like the one thing that the Cardinals were trying to do for the longest time, they were drafting guys that were positionless. Like, and what I mean by this is like they were drafting like the Isaiah Simmons. We didn't know what it's like. If you look at Isaiah Simmons, like it's like he plays linebacker, he plays safety, he plays a bunch of different positions, but there's not really like one position that you know Isaiah Simmons for. Xavier Collins is the same thing, off-ball linebacker, edge rusher. He's like a hybrid type. BJ Ojolari, who they drafted, who hasn't really panned out yet, also kind of positionless. They drafted guys that it's like, no, this is their pure positions. They play these positions and they play these positions well. So not these hybrid, we can kind of put them all over the field type players, which I think is a very, very good plus for the Cardinals. So yeah, I think Cardinals did well in this draft too. I think the Niners probably the best in this division overall, just because with all their draft capital that they had, they managed to get players that I think can help them out and win football games. But yeah, really like them. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be rooting for my Mountain West boys and Torrey Horton and Ricky White, man. So I think both those teams are going to the Pac-12. So we're going to get the Pac-12 back anyway. So it's going to be weird. Yeah.
And that leaves us with, last but not least, one of the more, if the NFC West was a dogfight of a division, you can make the argument that there was no dogfighty division more than the NFC North. Now, granted, the Bears were not really involved in the dogfight, but the other three teams were neck and neck with each other to the point that Detroit and the Minnesota determined the division champion in week 17, I think it was. Or maybe it might have been week 16. But either way, it was very at the tail end of the season. And so a lot of people had eyes on this division to see what was going to happen. And let's start off with Detroit. Detroit picking up Tyleik Williams, who was a very highly graded prospect from what I remember. I may be wrong there, but from what I understood, he was supposed to be one of the better defensive tackles in the draft. They pick him up. They do a good job of reloading their offensive line, getting guards from Georgia, getting guards from LSU. These are the things that will really help Jared Goff when it comes to absorbing pressure, because the Commanders somehow were able to produce pressure on Jared Goff, particularly in the second half of the playoff game, that helped propel the Commanders to the NFC Championship. And having the ability to stop that pressure helps Jared Goff and helps this offense in incredible ways. Now, the Isaac Tesla draft pick did cause some head scratching there. One, because you could make an argument that they don't need wide receiver help with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, but also if you are going to get wide receiver help, was this the best person to get? Now there is a conversation going on that Jameson Williams is potentially no longer going to be a Detroit Lion, between the potential for trades and different things like that, and he's not that happy with the team. But having somebody like Tesla, if you do enter in those negotiations, and Dominic Lovett at the very tail end of this draft, it allows you to be negotiating more from a position of strength when it comes to whether or not he tries to force his way out in a trade or with the contract negotiations, which is really what this is stemming from. There's the ability to re-sign him. It allows you to have a little bit more negotiation strength to say, we don't necessarily need you. We can rely more on Amon-Ra and on Sam Laporta with Gibbs there as well. So, sir, if you want to push the issue, we will find a new home for you and we'll get some draft pick compensation back for it. This is also a draft where you see them continuing to add to the defense with their round 6 and round 7 positions. I thought it was interesting that they didn't want to go safety and secondary a little bit more, because they did have some struggles there. They did extend Kirby Joseph, making him the highest paid safety, and he deserves the contract for sure. But there are definitely holes in that secondary for Detroit. So I could see where people could say maybe they could have gotten it a little bit higher, a little bit more of a premium draft pick. But turning to the Packers, I gotta say, Green Bay did a very great job of representing at the draft. I think there was granted there were some people who flew in for sure, but there was something like 130,000 people there, and the population of Green Bay, Wisconsin, which I've been to, is just north of 100,000 people. So it's there were more people there present than in the entirety of the city, and I use the term city loosely, but it's more of a town. I grew up I grew up in a town of about 100,000 people, so like I kind of know like what 100,000 people
It's a
generally
weird town
is like,
because you
looks
said
like.
you've been there. I've been there too. It's a weird town.
Yeah,
Like
it's
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 super
super
weird.
weird. It's super weird because it's like you're driving and then all of a sudden you're just in Green Bay, and it's like, oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right, cool. Like there's no like Green Bay in the distance kind of thing. It's just like,
yeah.
oh, I'm suddenly in Green
And the
Bay.
stadium just like in the middle of a like regular it's like Buffalo Stadium. It's just like, oh, it's like, sure, you live across the street from the stadium. That must
Right.
suck.
Yeah. So, but
Imagine if you weren't a Packers fan and it's just like every time you have to run to get groceries on a Sunday, you're like, fuck, I forgot the
well,
stupid
actually, no.
football
You would
game's on.
think that if you're going to get groceries on a Sunday, you should have easier time. Like once the game is started, like you go once the game is started.
Yeah,
Everybody who's going to the game, like that's removing like half the population of this. The lines should be pretty easy. But the Packers do something that they hadn't done since Curly Lambeau was there, and they draft a wide receiver in the first round, which got a great pop from the crowd if you were watching the draft. But they take Matthew Golden, and I know the book obviously hasn't been written on any of these rookies because they're rookies. But the book on him, whether or not he deserved to be a first round pick, that's going to be something that's up for conversation because he has a lot of speed, but there isn't that much else there besides some great speed. And it's a wide receiver room where there's no real dominant wide receiver one. Like, really, it's Jaden Reed and friends. Like, Romeo Dobbs doesn't really do that much. Dontavian Wicks barely ever sees the field. Christian Watson is there, and then he gets hurt, and then he's there, and then he gets hurt. Or he's dropping passes while he's there. So it's really an open situation for Matthew Golden to walk into and potentially become the alpha wide receiver. The question is whether or not he really is wide receiver one material, because if you've got great speed, that's awesome. But if you're not able to make contested catches and other things like that, it's a little bit harder to slot you there as the wide receiver one. Savion Williams from TCU is another wide receiver that they add. They add an offensive tackle. This is and then they switch to defense, which I thought was interesting because the Packers defense, it's interesting. I don't really remember the Packers defense being dominant. Do you like? I don't remember them being dominant last year. Like, I remember them being capable.
They were solid.
Like, but the thing was, I don't remember like game-breaking plays.
Yeah, they were solid.
But they were good at just like doing a bend but don't break to me in the grand scheme, and that's great because that's kind of what you need. You don't necessarily need game-changing interceptions and fumbles and turnovers and things like that if you are able to score points on offense. And when Jordan Love was there, they did well. Then he got injured. Malik Willis led them to a couple wins here and there. But when he got back, something felt off. And then on top of that, you had the Watson injury. Josh Jacobs can only do so much. And by the time that playoff game rolled around, when they were going up against the Eagles were like toying with food. That's how bad it looked at certain points of that game. So I'm interested to see how a lot of these players pan out for the Packers because regular season is great, but you got to be healthy when the playoffs come around.
Yeah.
And you would think that Jordan Love, he came back relatively soon in the season, and it's still by the time the playoffs rolled around, he was not looking like he should. So if they're able to bounce back from those injuries and, maybe Watson is kind of on his way out, put him on the trade block because now you've added 2 wide receivers. We'll see. But between Tucker Kraft and these wide receivers, hopefully they're able to help Josh Jacobs out. He did not leave the Raiders to come to this.
Yeah.
When like it's got to suck for Josh because like he's turning around and looking back at the Raiders and he's like, okay, now they got Pete Carroll, they got Geno Smith, they got Brock Bowers. This is a pretty good. Oh, they got this Ashton Genty fella. Like it's just like it's got to suck for him. I mean, like, granted, he's wiping his tears with all that money, but like it is what it is. Now you turn to the Vikings, and the Vikings, man. It's a wild situation for the Vikings because it was a whole offseason drama, whether or not you keep Sam Darnold, you don't keep Sam Darnold. Somebody kept banging the table and saying they are not going to keep Sam Darnold. It was this guy. I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying I was in many arguments about why they were not going to keep Sam
I
Darnold.
even said they shouldn't keep Darnold.
Yeah,
They drafted
because of the
McCarthy.
money.
I don't know why anyone would keep.
It was obvious. It was the money. Like, why would you?
Yeah.
Anyway, they let Sam Darnold go to Seattle. Thank you, sir, for your contributions. And they're like, JJ, get in there. How's your meniscus, sir? And he's like, well, it'd be great if you can continue to make sure that I will be protected. And they said, bet, we got you. Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State. Get this man on the team. And they're helping to build a better offensive line. They re-sign Aaron Jones, and now they grab Ty Felton. Now, the thing with the Ty Felton grab, some people may have been scratching their head and saying, do you need to waste a round 3 pick on a wide receiver? And you can make an argument as to yes. One, it's great to have more depth, and Jalen Naylor's fine and everything, but like, why not try to bring someone in who can be a better wide receiver 3? And also, Jordan Addison, my guy, Addison, will be potentially facing some kind of penalties for a DUI incident. And that's going to be like, he's going to trial over it and things like that. And I don't know why he's going to just plead, man. Like, I don't know what they're coming to you.
You got a DUI in California, so there's a lot of the thing is, since he got the DUI in California and not in Minnesota, I think why he's going to corporate is because since his license will get suspended, but I think he's trying to make sure that. So I don't know his blood alcohol content, but based on your blood alcohol content, if his blood alcohol content is too high, he has to be based in California for a time being. He can't. That's why, because of the probation rules. So that's why he's going to court, because he's trying to make sure that, like, one, and then also two, I think it's also because he has to get an interlock in his car and stuff. So the thing is, and the reason why I know all this is because, like, I used to work at a place where I helped a lot of lawyers, and one of the lawyers that I helped was a DUI lawyer. So I learned a lot about the DUI rules and how harsh California is when it comes to DUIs.
I know the DUI laws for Illinois, particularly Chicago, because I'm a lawyer here. But like, I don't know the jurisdictional thing, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, why wouldn't you just?
Yeah, I think that's an issue, because if he doesn't fight it in court, then he has to stay in the state of California, I think, for like 90 days, and he can't leave the state of California at all. So he has to be. So I think he's trying to fight for probation rights, so that way he can because like it's also a travel thing. You can't really travel with it, because the way California works is like the real ID is tied to your driver's license, and if you're on a suspended license, you don't. Yeah, so it's more of like so he can play type of thing, not really like he's trying to fight his charges, because I think also the interlock has to be a California car. It has to be in the car. It's either a car that's in California, that's registered in California, or the car that you were driving. And I don't know if the car that he was driving was his, or a rental car that he was just renting, because he was driving to LAX. So I'm assuming he rented a car. So like that's another thing that they have to figure out, because he has to get a mandatory. So for anyone that gets a DUI in California, and especially at a certain blood alcohol content, you have to get a mandatory interlock in your car. So you get the interlock, and then later on you got to breathe in it and everything. Yeah. So it's more of a probation thing, so that way he doesn't break any probation rules, because it is more of a misdemeanor in California, and probation in California, they don't mess around with that kind of stuff. So I think he's more fighting to see like if he can serve like in-house arrest inside Minnesota. Does he have to be in California? I think that's why he has to go to corporate, because it's confusing, because like I think it's like if you get it like the way I was explained to me, like say for example, if you got a DUI in Nevada or something, like you got a DUI in Nevada, you would just get charged for your state. Like they'll just transfer it over, depending on where you stay. They'll charge you differently, or they'll just give you a DUI in Nevada, because they have to revoke your license based off your location and stuff. But like since he does have a house in California, and he's a California resident, and he was driving a California car, and he has a California license, that's why they have to he's going to court, so that way he can be able to play and travel just fine without any issues.
And that explains why in round 3 the Vikings got Ty Felton.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
This guy isn't going to be playing for us for a couple weeks. And you want to talk about windows, the Vikings have to believe that with this rookie quarterback, if JJ can make 80% of the throws, which he probably can, that Sam Darnold can make, then if it, from a decision-making standpoint, he is better than Darnold, you're not going to have all the problems that Darnold did bring along with pretty good otherwise quarterback play. So you can believe, if you're the Vikings, that your window is open, that you need to be competitive, and more importantly, that if you are going to be in dogfights with Detroit, you may end up being a wild card team, similar to how they were last year. And that means having to win more playoff games than somebody else. So it's a situation where they need to be competitive, get another wide receiver in this room, get them up to speed, have them learn with JJ McCarthy and JJ Justin Jefferson, and get this person on the field. And that turns us to the final team to talk about, but one of the more intriguing drafts. And that is the Chicago Bears, Chase's other team, his NFC team. And this is a super, you want to talk about dogfights in the division. Chicago brings over Ben Johnson from Detroit, the offensive coordinator. They make him the head coach, and this is his draft and his first pick. There was the whole conversation, will they move up? There's conversation, will move up. Doesn't happen for whatever reason. But when the Bears are on the clock, the first pick they make, Colston Loveland. The second pick they make, Luther Burden. This is going to be an offensive team. And that makes sense. Offensive head coordinator, Caleb Williams. You've got DJ Moore. You've got Rome Odunze. This is a team that the question here is why maybe why Colston Loveland if you already have Cole Kmet. And maybe it is a situation where they couldn't make the trade up and they were like, we're going to take the best player available, and the best player available for us is Colston Loveland. And maybe you want to run 2 tight end sets.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift out there, the run game. Do those sorts of things. You wait until the 7th round to get a running back. So there's got to be some faith and trust in DeAndre Swift, despite what.
Well, there's a report. There's a report the Bears might try to sign Nick Chubb. Yeah, so
there's also that as well. Yeah. Which, kick the tires on Chubb. I don't really think there's much there, but I get it why you would want to try to bring him in. But it's a situation where you need to try to do everything you can to help out Caleb Williams. And their other 2nd round pick, they pick up an offensive tackle. Maybe not the best offensive tackle in the world, but depth is always important, especially when you traded for the Joe Thunnies of the world. You tried to rebuild this offensive line in a short amount of time. You got to get depth behind there. And now you then turn to that defense and go, all right, we can't not miss out on the defense. Let's get Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Let's get Ruben Hippolyte II, which is one of the greatest football names I've seen in a very long time, despite the fact that 2 slides ago we talked about somebody named Upton Stout. But this is the defense also has to be there. This is going to be a very interesting and intriguing offense. You lost Keenan Allen, but you add Luther Burden. Now you really are telling Rome Odunze you are going to be the YR2. Maybe Luther Burden tries to challenge him for that, but this is a situation where Rome has to be a guy. He has to be a guy because DJ Moore, while he, is DJ Moore, he looked not enthused last year.
Yeah.
And maybe with the refresh of the coach, maybe with the refresh of the offensive coordinator, the idea that the head coach is the offensive coordinator, it's fewer people to talk to. Maybe that's a thing. Whatever it is, this is a situation where Chicago, the expectations were ridiculously high last year. The number 1 overall pick. Then you have Rome Odunze at 9. People were talking about this is the greatest situation a rookie quarterback has ever stepped into. And you were picking at 10th. It cannot happen again under any circumstances. You got to be picking at least 16-ish for this to be considered a success in year 1. I'm not saying they got to go out there and make the playoffs. And if you're picking 16, you're pretty much a playoff team. But you can't be in that position where you were coming into this draft. And I really want to see how this is going to work out because you are adding in a lot of cheap talent, not cheap from bad, but cheap from just affordable. It's great to have Colson Loveland as a second tight end when you've already paid Cole Kmet. You didn't pay him too much money, but maybe there's the new regime is like there's a little buyer's remorse. They didn't have anything to do with Cole Kmet, so they're like, maybe we want to make our guy the guy. With Luther Burden, affordable wide receiver. Rome Odunze, affordable wide receiver. Caleb Williams, affordable contract. This is your time, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to make the move, this is when you make the move, which is why I can understand kicking the tires on Nick Chubb. But at the same time, I don't know really what Nick Chubb is going to get you, which is why I thought they would have taken a running back higher. Now, RJ, our friend RJ, he was talking about Kyle Monangai is going to be the goal line back. And I heard a lot about that last year with Roschon Johnson. They tried with Roschon Johnson. He had 6 touchdowns on very few carries, so maybe he did a decent enough job. But they bring in Monangai to potentially be that thumper. My perspective is Chicago should not be trying to score at the goal line. Not with this number of offensive talents. This should be like a 20-yard touchdown or a 15-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Williams. I mean, you've got DJ, Rome, Luke Burden, Loveland, Kmet, even Swift catches it out of the backfield. Why in God's green earth are you concerned about having to score at the goal line? Like maybe it's like, oh shit, somebody got tackled at the goal line, but like that should not be happening if Ben Johnson is who Ben Johnson is, and says he is, and so on and so forth. I'm really super intrigued to see this one play out. I saved this one for last because to me, this was the most intriguing division last year. We were talking, not necessarily you and I, but like the world was talking about this could be a division that sends all 4 teams to the playoffs. And they sent 3. It was just Chicago that didn't get the job done. So, and granted, if Chicago had been better, maybe the records of these guys would have dropped a little bit because they do see Chicago 2 times a year. I get it. But this is also a division that could, again, potentially send all 4 teams to the playoffs. So because this is – and the other reason why I say that last is the same way I say the AFC West a little bit later is because this is your NFC team. But tell me, sir, about the draft for these 4 teams.
Yeah, Detroit's draft, it's kind of like on brand since the Dan Campbell came in. It's just like they just draft players who they like, no matter what the grades are, like no matter what like the consensus people think about them. Like Tyreek Williams, just like Jack Campbell, just like Jahmyr Gibbs. People are like, why are they drafting this guy? Like, what? No, like that's a reach. And hey, look, Tyreek Williams, I think he'll do well. That was the thing that hurt the Lions last year was the fact when all their defensive tackles went down, they didn't have any depth behind it. So Tyreek Williams will give a good breath of fresh air there. I really like the pickups of Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier. I think those are great guard pickups. Both their guards are getting a little bit older, maybe contracts coming up. So you pick 2 guys, case injuries happen. You got 2 guys that'll come in and they can play football right away, both Miles Frazier and Tate Ratledge. So really like those pickups. The Tesla pickup, it's obviously they know something about JMO that we don't. Yeah. And so like I wouldn't be surprised if JMO, it's one of those where he gets traded somewhere in the summer and we're just like, what? They traded JMO, and this is why they drafted Tesla. So I don't mind the Tesla pickup. It's just Arkansas doesn't really have like the best track record of like wide receivers, but hey man, the Lions, they're normally good at these late round picks. That's what their GM kind of thrives at. Brad Holmes. He tends to get really good ballers in the late rounds. So I ain't gonna knock him too hard for it. The Packers, they showed with this draft, we do not believe in our receiving room. So they drafted 2 receivers that can help, boost the competition there. Like we talked about with the Colts, how they had a bunch of like day 2 guys that they didn't want to maybe like give up on. Packers drafted a lot of these guys in day 1, day 2, and they have given up on these guys. They have said that we are not really having any faith in the Watsons, the Dobbs, Watkins. Maybe we still have faith in. Jalen Reed, we still have faith in, but everyone else, no, we do not have any faith in you guys. But I feel like most of the receivers are kind of redundant for the Packers. Like they just drafted a bunch of redundant guys, and I just felt like who they drafted, I don't know. I don't think they helped the team right away. More like guys that, more like guys that I feel like will help years down the line. But
yeah,
that's how I feel about honestly, the Packers were one of the drafts I wasn't really that huge of a fan of. But the atmosphere was great. Every time they got a pick, the fans would go crazy. So that was cool. The Vikings did a lot of trading back, just gave up their picks. they were looking at it like, hey, look, we already pay a lot of players. We have the positions filled. We just need depth at these positions, and that's pretty much what they drafted. Besides Donovan Jackson, who will probably be a starter for them. A lot of these guys that they have right here, these are just depth. Like they just need to fill depth, and they got future picks out of it. So shout out to the Vikings. They'll have a big draft class in the next 2 years. They'll just keep drafting guys. Maybe they'll keep trading down. Chicago. This was clear. Ben Johnson wanted a lot of playmakers, a lot of guys that can run after the catch. That's something that Ben Johnson likes to do with his offense. He likes to set up his receivers with yak ability. And you got guys in Loveland and Burden, both guys that are first-round talents, that can get the ball and run with the ball afterwards. He loves his two tight ends. He did that with Laporta and Brock Wright, because there's a lot of Laporta owners that were pissed that when Brock Wright was catching balls. So I think Loveland and Kmet, that's a very nice combo to have with you, because you have two good tight end receiving threats that Caleb Williams can throw to. So I do see a lot of run with them, but also with Burden. I think Burden is more like DJ Moore. A lot of people, just because of his size, think he's a slot guy, but he doesn't like operating in the slot. He likes being more of an outside receiver. So Burden can kind of fill in the hole and be that slot guy for him. And then Roman Dunze is always going to be an outside wide receiver. He's not going to go in the slot. You can force him in there, but he's not. That's not his preferred position. It's a X wide receiver, do stuff out there type of role. So Burden fits there. So I like that they got playmakers to help Caleb Williams a lot more. Getting these playmakers with the yak ability, that's what Ben Johnson likes. Offensive line depth, that's always good to have, especially with the tackle situation with Chicago. It's been a hit or miss for them. They build out that interior really well, but the tackles still kind of not the best. But defensively, I just feel they got good depth players, good guys that can fill in when their starters are not there, especially because on the interior defensive line, they signed a lot of older guys. They didn't sign any of the spring chickens of the world. So yeah, I think they did a good job, the Bears. But I would say that the Lions would probably be my favorite out of the NFC North teams, just because look, you can look at their roster and who's starting for them and where they drafted them, and it's kind of like the Rams, like what we said. We can't doubt them. They know how to draft players and get them to be starters, and even force them to be starters even if they're struggling. See Terry and Arnold, he was struggling, but they still stuck with him and help him try to build his confidence before ultimately deciding, let's rotate you in and out. So they'll at least give their guys a chance. But really do like these pickups for the Lions. But yeah, the Bears, like you said, they need to score touchdowns with these 20 yards out. But I think getting guys like Loveland and Burden, guys that can have great yak ability, that's going to make a difference to them. So.
Yeah, this is one of the more intriguing divisions, and I'm always going to be paying attention to NFC North games because I live now in Chicago. But this is a fascinating year for the division as a whole, just because of the moves that happened both in free agency and as well as because every single team has a storyline. Right? Like the Detroit, you've lost the offensive coordinator, you lost the defensive coordinator. What's going to happen with you? The Packers, you got to sort out this wide receiver room mess and really rally around Jordan Love and the injuries. The Vikings, did you make a mistake in letting Darnold leave? And Chicago, Ben Johnson's first year. Every single one of these teams has so many question marks and storylines coming in that it's one of the more intriguing divisions that we're going to be tracking throughout the course of this season. But guys, this was a marathon episode of True Offseason, and we want to thank you all for tuning in. I got to say, this has been in the span of a week. 1 week ago, Chase didn't have Amari and Hampton, and he didn't have a gentleman's sweep of the Lakers. But now he's got both. Oh. So, it's a good week. It's a good week if you're Chase.
Do you want to hear a sad Timberwolves fact?
Go for it. Lay it on me.
Julius Randle has the same amount of first round wins as KG and Cat during their time as the Timberwolves. Damn. KG only won one playoff series with us, and that led to the 2004 Western Conference Finals, and then same with Cat. He went to the 2024 Western Conference Finals. I really do like the Timberwolves' chances to make it to the conference finals now because like we get to face either the winner between Golden State and Houston, and I want Golden State just because they're smaller. Yeah, Houston does give us issues, but the way Houston been playing, I kind of like. I'm just more worried about the Thunder. That's it. But other than that, very happy with my T-Wolves, man.
Hey,
like I couldn't believe it, man. What like well, the thing is this: Luca always kills the T-Wolves, man. Like I don't know what it is. He just kicks our ass. So I just felt that's how it was going to be. Like even though we had the size advantage over the Lakers, the fact that it's Luca and like just shooting every shot and just making it, and then like I just felt that it was like one of those series we just match up. Like I just feel the Lakers had enough to beat us in the close games, but the fact that the T-Wolves kind of just like was controlling that whole series was just shocking to me. And shout out to Big Roo, shout out to Julius Randle, the two worst trades in NBA history, most people said, and they swept what many saying are the best trade, the gentleman's sweep, the best trade in NBA history with Luka Doncic. So hey man, the worst trades, two of the worst trades of all time. They got it done, baby.
And it's and Cat did a gentleman's sweep of the Pistons. So no, not gentleman's sweep. Two.
Six
two.
games. Yeah,
six.
Yeah,
they go two.
Shout out to Cat. Yeah, I'm rooting for my dog Cat, man. I kind of want the Warriors too, just because of Jimmy Butler. Just because I would love to fucking get Jimmy Butler. I don't even hate the Warriors like that. Like because I kind of have like a little stock in the Warriors because before the season, I said, oh, the Warriors, Steph has a chance to win another ring, and everyone laughed at me saying the Warriors suck. I'm like, no, Steph's just good, and so I kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of want the Warriors to like prove me right in my take, but then at the same time, when they got Jimmy Butler, it's like, fuck you, I don't want you guys to succeed. I now want you guys to fail.
I love how polarizing of a player Jimmy Butler is.
Look, as sad as it to say, he is a top 10 Timberwolf of all time for the 2 years that we've had him. It's sad to say that, Jimmy Butler, but his first year in Minnesota before he got injured, we were a 3 seed. We looked great. Then he got injured, and then we fell all the way down to being a 7 seed. And then Jimmy came back more angry, and then he was pissed because Wiggins and Towns couldn't keep us as a 3 seed. So he gave up on us in the playoffs. Like that was pretty much it because he was pissed and stuff. Rightfully so. He should every right, but just the way he handled his exit still pisses me off to this day. The "you fucking need me" type of shit.
I will say that seems to be the recurring theme, whether it was how he got out of Chicago, how he got out of Minnesota, and then how he left the Heat. That has been one of the recurring themes. But I mean, like the talent of the guy, I don't know that much about basketball. But
no, he's good. He's good. He's a great player. Yeah, he's a great player. I would love to kick his ass and get him out of the playoffs. I think that would be to me like Minnesota's NBA championship.
With my guy Damian Lillard out of the playoffs, I end up going back to the Golden State. So I'm kind of hoping for Steph, just because like what I like about basketball are 3-point shooters. Just because like the sheer insanity of what they're doing.
I don't know if you noticed. Do you know who led the league in 3-point attempts and 3-point makes this year?
I'm just gonna assume it's Ant.
Yep, Anthony Edwards. You should love him. You should love him. He's the greatest three-point shooter.
That's the thing. Like I wanted to be a Golden State Warriors fan, but at the time, because they were winning so much, a lot of the guys were telling me that it would just be bandwagoning. So I said, all right, I'm gonna pick the second best 3-point shooter that I like, and I was like Damian Lillard. So Trailblazers, and then now the Bucks, but. With him
sucks
out
for him. That injury, it's wraps for him now. That sucks too, and that's probably it for Giannis in Milwaukee. Like
here. Which I mean, on the plus side, since I am not a team follower, I'm a player follower. I suppose if Damian Lillard leaves or retires, then I'm able to pick a new person and a new team, which is great for me. So
I already told my friends if Ant leaves us, I'm just following him. I'm tired of cheering for the team. And it's so I should have done it with KG. I should have just became a Celtics fan and just pretended I like love Boston and stuff. And no, because I stayed loyal to this stupid. I stay too loyal to this fucking stupid team.
But think about it, though. Then if you had done that, then you would be rooting for Jason Tatum and his like desire to always be awkward.
here's the thing: I love Tatum. Tatum's one of my favorite players to watch, so
All right,
I
but
would have been okay with that.
I like the guy too, but like at the same time, he makes everything just seem awkward in every
Yeah,
interview.
no,
All that
he
kind of stuff.
does.
He has no awareness of like what is happening around him. But
No, he's from St. Louis. What do you expect from him? Come on, leave him alone. But
come on.
yeah, I know. Like I told my friends, like I can't deal with another Timberwolves rebuild because it took us forever just to rebuild, like forever. Like it's ridiculous. So if Ant requests a trade, I am following Anthony Edwards and becoming. Then I can buy a jersey in peace, knowing that like, oh, I'm not cursing my favorite team. I'll buy whatever jersey Ant plays for that's not the Timberwolves because I can't buy my favorite players' jerseys because I always feel like I curse them when I do. So I'm like, I have to either wait till they retire or Mitchell Ness makes like an older jersey or something. Then I can buy a jersey and stuff.
Does it count if somebody sends you the jersey?
No, it doesn't count if someone sends me. It's if I make the purchase. If I decide to buy the jersey myself, then I feel like I curse.
Okay.
Like it's just like offensive players in the NFL and any player that's like the best player on my team. Like my friends always say, dude, why don't you have a cat jersey? I'm like, I'm just afraid I'm going to curse him.
It's tempting then for me to buy an Omari and Hampton jersey and send it to you. You see like why.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be cursed because I didn't buy it.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, it's just okay.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be cursed.
So then I feel as though like I don't want to curse myself, but like now I'm like, okay, what if we set up some kind of wager where like if the Chargers beat the Broncos, I have to buy a jersey, but if the Broncos beat the Chargers, then you have to buy a jersey.
We could do that. We could do like whoever finishes best out of the two teams, we'll buy each other a player's jersey.
The problem is you're gonna try to transfer this curse to me, like this is a horror movie, and make me buy Pat Surtain's jersey. I already know how this is gonna happen.
No, it doesn't work on defensive players. That's why all my Chargers jerseys are defensive players. Yeah,
get out of here! You're gonna make me buy a Bo Nix jersey. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, Derwin James is safe. Khalil Mack is safe. All my people don't understand. Like when people see my Chargers jerseys, they're like, "Yeah, it's weird you don't have Herbert." I'm like, I'm just because the 1 year I got a Philip Rivers jersey, that was his worst year, and so that's where this jersey curse has kind of popped in my head. And then Andrew Wiggins, I bought his jersey after his rookie year, and he never progressed. So I said, I can't do it no more. So that's why with Ant, it's like I bought his shoes. I have the Anthony Edwards shoes because that's the only time a Timberwolves player is ever going to get signature shoes and stuff. So I didn't need them. They're Georgia colors too. I fucking hate them, man. So it's like, well, they're white, but they have you can tell they're Georgia themed. Yeah, let me grab them real quick so you can see, dude. Like, yeah, dude, like they're kind of Georgia themed with the laces and the shoe. They're dirty because I actually wear them. They're actually really good shoes. These are the AE1 low tops.
Yeah, those are a little Georgia.
Yeah, and then look at the red Adidas logo. Like, this is so Georgia, dude.
Yeah,
but
that is pretty Georgia, man.
Yeah, but these are the AE1 lows. I would say I haven't hooped in these. I've kind of just been wearing them casually, like if I just need to run out to do errands and stuff. But I'm pretty sure these are good basketball shoes. I don't know. Like I'm kind of a Nike guy when it comes to the basketball shoes. Like when I play, I still play at my old Paul George's. I think Paul George had like the best signature line, and stuff when he and KD's not his more recent models, but like the KD12s I still kind of play in. So the KD12s and stuff. But yeah, like honestly, Adidas though, when it comes to looks for the basketball shoes, the Dames, the Hardens, and the Ants, like they've just been killing it. Like I've been looking at some of the Harden shoes. I don't even like Harden. Well, I am kind of a James Harden defender. But still, yeah, the AE1 low with the Georgia laces, the Georgia thing. Yeah, so that's the only reason why I hate this shoe. But I needed to get it because it's Ant. I couldn't.
What a wonderful way to be closing this out with a little bit of Go Dogs. You know what I
mean? Yeah, well, because Ant went to Georgia for 1 year, so that's the only flaw with Ant. He went to Georgia.
Well, he's also from Atlanta.
Yeah, but still, he could have gone to Georgia Tech. Could have gone to another school. He had to go to Athens. Could have just went somewhere else. I'm just saying. You didn't have to go to. Could you imagine Ant and Roman Reigns and Calvin Johnson, Georgia Tech? Like, what a group that would be.
But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this was a bit of a marathon, but we appreciate everyone who is still here with us. And we want to thank you all for tuning in. And Chase, let the people know where they can find you, good sir.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on the Around the Point Network. I'm kind of disenfranchised with pro wrestling as a whole right now, so I'll talk to Steve about it. And I don't know, man. I'm just not interested. Like, you know, we have these spouts as wrestling fans. Sometimes, like, you're into the product, and sometimes you just get out of it. Like I don't know. I've just been kind of
It's the post-Mania hangover.
yeah, like because I went and I watched a lot of wrestling. It's just nothing's really exciting me right now, both from WWE and AEW. They're both kind of just blah right now. I'm just like blah on both of them. And it's just kind of like, oh my God, WWE is just they're back to their old ways, and then AEW they're just doing AEW things. Like nothing's exciting me as a fan. If you guys are still excited, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys have joy. But kind of disenfranchised. Kind of like I'm more excited with basketball, football, all that other crap.
Sure.
MMA, even with MMA, I'm disenfranchised right now. Like the two things that I love, I'm disenfranchised of. It's a sad day in the sports world for Chase Oliver. But other than that, yeah, Around the Point. I'll try my best to talk about wrestling. Maybe I can tell Steve. I just won't watch, and you'll tell me what happens, and I'll just be like, "Oh, no way, that happened! Wow!" No, I mean that's serious. I'm just like tapped out. I'm just like, you know, I felt like when I saw Cena win 17, my wrestling soul left me. Like I was like, I can rest in peace.
That's fair.
I I saw that live. I know the match was bad. I don't care that the match was bad. The fact that I saw Cena win. Yeah, I saw Cena win 17 legit world titles, not some made up shit that Ric Flair wants to make up in his own head and stuff. I don't care what anyone says.
What are you talking
about? Because Ric Flair claims that he has 22 world titles.
24, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Most of those we don't know are legit. Most of them are fake world titles. We can say we've seen all 17 John Cena world title wins.
I mean, there's the 16 that WWE says are legit. Those are legit, right? So
yeah, those are legit, but you can't really watch them all. Like you can't really see them all. Like you have to. It's hard to watch. Like with Cena, we know he beat JBL. We know he beat Edge. We know he beat Edge again. We know he beat Randy Orton. Yeah. So he beat Edge, right? And then afterwards, he beat Randy Orton like 3 times to get like another 3 in there. He beat Jericho for the World Heavyweight title. And then he beat Edge and Big Show to get that World Heavyweight title. And then afterwards, like he beat Del Rio for the World Heavyweight title. He won the Money in the Bank.
You're forgetting about Sheamus and Batista.
Oh no! Oh yeah, he beat Sheamus and he beat Sheamus in the Chamber, but Sheamus got eliminated early on by Triple H in that Chamber. So it was really he beat Triple H for that title. Then he beat Batista at Mania. Yeah, and then dude, like. I was naming all of them, and I feel like I'm missing just one. I don't care. I don't know. Oh, AJ Styles, like to get to 16. We've seen them. We've seen them from 2005 to 2020, 25, 20 years of this guy being a world champion. Then in 20 years too. Ric Flair took 30 years to get all his titles. So I'm just saying, dog. John Cena to go. So like I felt my wrestling soul was like, Chase, you can stop watching this crap now.
That's
you can stop, and I don't want to stop because I met great people because of pro wrestling. But like my interest in the product as a whole, wrestling as a whole, is just like, I just need a break. Maybe don't watch AEW till All Out. Just kind of go in there and just be like, oh, what's going on? Who won the Owen? Oh shit, it's oh man, Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley. This is awesome, and then go to SummerSlam. And then just be like, who the fuck's Cena facing? And then just be like, oh wow, he's facing CM Punk. It's great. And then I'll be back in.
That's fair, man. Like, I mean, I could say I'm in a similar boat. Like, obviously, I haven't watched AEW and like on a weekly basis, and God, it'll be 2 years soon. No, just over a year, because it was around Revolution time last year. But now if the pay-per-view's on, like I'll throw it on. But besides that, and I got to see Punk main event Mania. Like there's really nothing else like that I need to super duper see. Like I got
that video package
for 20 years. So
You couldn't hear the crowd, but that video package they were playing with the Fire Burns playing, the whole arena was singing "This Fire
Oh,
Burns."
I
It
can
was a
imagine. I
sick.
can imagine.
It was the sickest thing. Like we were just all that
Like
video package
Colin
is like it burnt in my head. Like that.
yeah,
That's one of those things where I'm just like, I remember CM Punk's entrance. Like there's a lot of things where it's like when you go to a live event, you just always remember and you just go back to and you're just like, that was so sick. Just remembering me looking at that video package, getting goosebumps, hearing "This Fire Burns" as they just edited this awesome video package, and then everyone in unison singing "This Fire Burns," and then going to Cult of Personality live, and we're all singing Cult of Personality. It's like, oh my goodness, like just an awesome entrance, like probably one of my favorite entrances live.
So I was physically present when he won the title that started 434. I was physically present when he came to AEW, and I got to see him main event Mania. Like Colleen was sitting, on the couch with me, and she's seeing me watch this guy. Granted, Colleen likes a lot of wrestlers just because she likes presentation and all that kind of stuff. Like she's a huge Ray Phoenix fan because she's just like, how does he do the things that he does? But she also loves anybody that's really from Chicago or anything from Chicago. So like she is a built-in Punk fan to a certain extent. But like she was watching that through like my eyes, so to speak.
Yeah.
And she was just like, this is like this. It wasn't even the fact that he was doing it for her. It was her ability to see me see him do that.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And so it's like,
and he got last billing too. He didn't come out first, second. He got out last billing.
That was the thing. And I remember saying to her during the week, I was like, I get that he's going to main event, but the idea of who's going to come out first, second, third, like that kind of thing. I was like, if they make him come out last, that would be absolutely amazing. And
yeah,
that's what
that little stuff matters. A lot of people don't think it matters, but it does matter.
Yeah, like that, and that was just absolutely incredible. So, I can definitely understand, where you're coming from, especially like with the news that, and Roman, I love Roman, but like the news that he's going to be out of action, he's taking a break until
Hey, it's AAPI month. You can complain about this after AAPI month. Come on now.
It's like I get it, but I get the thing, but I'm like, okay, but then don't obviously set up a tag match on Raw, attacking both of them. Like do it a little bit differently. Like maybe
because Punk's also missing time because I think he's filming something.
I wouldn't be surprised, but like that, and so poor Sami Zayn has to be the guy who dies. But anyway, we want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. This has been a wonderful week for Chase. Maybe he will for sure find out that J.K. Dobbins is returning to the team, and he's going to have a wonderful three-headed monster at running back, and he just won't know.
Don't sleep on Raheem Sanders now. That's my dude. I'm telling y'all, man, that guy from South Carolina.
I gotta say, like, I get that this was a super deep running back class and all that kind of shit, but like, and granted, I think Denver probably had the best shot, like best need and all that kind of stuff, but how did the league just let Omari and Hampton end up on the Chargers? Like, that's just dumb.
Jim Harbaugh, man, come on.
It's just dumb.
They just want to make sure Jim Harbaugh got what he wanted, dude. They didn't want him going back to college. Well, he couldn't go back to college anyways. He would have to serve like a year suspension.
All of this just to see Justin Herbert throw 3 interceptions in the playoffs. You hate
not happening this time, man. We're gonna see 2 Amari and Hampton touchdowns and 1 Najee Harris touchdown in the playoffs. Herbert will have a modest 222 yards and 1 touchdown stat line when he wins this playoff game.
I think Harbaugh came to the realization it's like if we make the playoffs, we just got to run the ball. Like don't even let Justin run. Like it'll be fine if we just run the ball.
I'm with him.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will catch you guys later.